runners will not at all complain if they were to get some bombs. But we're going to be off. Takaze is getting going first. Of course, we'll get the 2 runners synced up, but we'll get a quick preview from Takaze that item is a piece of heart.
Certainly a statistically likely item to find. There are quite a few heart pieces in the game. Big 20 is probably the most common thing you could find.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. By number, the highest count of items is the big 20s. We do see a map check from Tadaru, and that was a crystal in Eastern, green pendant in Desert Palace, and one of the 5 6 crystals in Tower of Harris. So it's a pretty nice way out there. They will probably be looking to avoid Desert and probably looking to hit up Eastern and Hera as soon as possible.
Yep, and we're going to find out pretty quickly whether or not we're going to have access to something right off the bat. The uncle here has some kind of weapon. Today we are going to find ourselves a Cane of Burna.
Oh, boy.
So many of you may be familiar with why we have such groaned response to that. For one, it uses quite a lot of magic, so we're going to be very judicious with our magic use throughout the seed. But more importantly, we've had some instances of burn bomb molus in Desert, and we're hoping our runners don't have to do that today. Some of us might hope for that, though.
Depends on how rude or, masochistic you are, but in this case, mainly what we're going to see for these 2 items is just making sure that they use their magic carefully. Each time you activate the Cane of Burna, there's a flat magic cost that you have to eat, and then it just kind of ticks down gradually over time. So you want to make sure that you're activating it the fewest number of times possible, because each one of those will cost you some magic. That was actually a really favorable alignment of those guards for Takaze to be up and not to bother with Kane there. They might have just ended up splitting up and causing you problems anyway, but otherwise, the escape is pretty easy with this.
Yeah, so this is one of the absolutely required kills here. This blue guard will drop a key for us. We'll have a green guard and a blue guard in the going towards the basement, and then, of course, the ball and chain guard. Quite a lot of kills have to happen on our way to Zelda. There's only really one required kill on the way to the back of escape, which will be a key rat. So we'll try to use pots where we can, try to get bombs. Both of our runners did find 3 bombs, which is really nice. Any more that they find will be just useful.
Yeah, exactly, but that chest giving them the 3 means they probably don't really need to farm anymore, so they'll both be very happy with that, and it'll probably save them a lot of potential pain of having to, go farm, run out of magic, pick up some extra pots, blah, 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 etc.
It looks like both of our runners there managed to pin the blue guard right against the statue there. That's about as efficient as it gets with a Cane of Burna.
Yeah, that was really good use of the knockback there, if you know how it works. Well, I mean, not even necessarily know how it works, but at least know what to expect from it. You can make good use of it. So they're both heading into this back room to fight the ball and chain guard pretty much the same time, and they're both going to go for pot strats most likely. It's just kind of an annoyance to use the Cane of Burna on him. It takes too long, so pots are the easy way to go.
It's kind of funny that they both got the bomb drop. The way prize packs work in Randomizer, the same groups of enemies have prize packs together like they did before, but the contents are randomized. So they both got the bomb drop, which means that they both won the same coin flips as far as the 50% drop rate goes. So far it's been pretty much exactly the same and in sync with each other.
Yeah, they're even closer now than they were before. Takaze's bomb ended up further to the left, whereas Tadaru's was down a little bit, so it's a little bit easier. But otherwise, they're basically neck and neck. They're going to take their princess back to the front. They've still gotten nothing useful aside from this Cane of Burna and those 3 bombs. So, we're just kind of waiting to see. And the one annoyance with this Cane of Burna, you can get a lot of different items from the uncle now. Every single one of them is a type of progression item, except the Cane of Burna really only opens up, Spike Cave and maybe Killing Blind.
Yeah, that'd be a very fun way to kill blind, and be a very laggy room. So hopefully our runners find something that pokes first. But I lost my train of thought. Never mind.
I know that, Phil.
Oh, I remember, actually. This is the part of the game canonically where we put the princess in a crystal, right?
Almost. Later. We'll get there.
But for hitting the mantle at about 4 minutes 30 seconds, this is a pretty standard escape. They should be, if everything goes well, probably just over 6 minutes.
Yep, 6 minutes being that kind of time marker you use both in Randomizer and more notably in No Major Glitches runs. Of course, in No Major Glitches, there's a fixed amount of stuff that you're going to do in a kind of a fixed way that you're going to do it. Whereas in Randomizer, you could, end up getting something like the mirror and being able to shave a full minute off of your escape clear. Meanwhile, Takaze opted to kill all of those ropes there in that previous room, and he got a crap load of bombs, so he's in a really good position right now. Tadaru, meanwhile, rocking half a heart. Got to be a little bit careful here.
Yeah, Tadaru had really rough RNG in that room. 2 different ropes actually got directly in his way, preventing all chances of avoiding them. So at this point, he's looking for health, it looks like. Very dangerous position. Also getting some magic, since there are some pots you can pick up. But yeah, you got to be very careful not to die and escape. We would respawn all the way in the cell.
Yeah, it's not a good time. But fortunately, he was able to pick up a heart and then did take a hit from one of the rats. But fortunately, those are only a quarter heart of damage, so he's fine and will make his way into this last room. Takaze is slightly ahead of him. We'll get these 3 chest checks from Takaze. It's a bomb upgrade, it is a map, it is a red rupee. So really nothing of value so far at all in the game.
All the times that I missed a bomb and escape, I feel really bad about that whenever I see like nothing in the back half here. Oh, and I was wrong before. They would respawn at the mantle. I had that backwards.
Oh, you're correct, yeah.
But it looks like about 610, 615 for our runners. Not bad at all.
Yep, Tadaru. Oh man, I'm gonna get these names crossed up many times today. Tadaru right behind as Takaze walks into the main room of the sanctuary. He did already get the map, so this has an item which is the lamp, and that will be very nice. But again, well, it is progression. It's just not a lot of progression.
Yeah, it could definitely point us towards Eastern, although it's not something that I think really anybody wants to do without the bow. So for most situations, most runners are going to exhaust all of their overworld checks before they even bother diving in. But I have seen races, and I've even lost races, where people have dived Eastern Palace immediately after escape. What we're going to see here, though, is some information grabbing. We're going to pull the tree for our Tier 2 tree pull. We've killed 4 enemies and taken damage. And we'll also get to see one of the Hoarders, hopefully.
Yep, Takaze will lift the bush off the bush crab right here. Picks up red rupees, which are really nice to pick up. He'll just follow it around all the way, and he tried to kill it, actually, at the end there, but didn't end up getting that. But that's all right. He'll kill this buzz blob with a couple bushes, and he's doing that to set up the Tier 1 tree pull. So he's already checked 2. Tier 1 is just kill any 1 enemy, and you're good. That is a big 20 on the Lumberjack ledge, so Aga not required, at least by this specific item.
Yep, there is, of course, the opportunity for us to have Dark World access through Aghanim, and we'll find out, before too long whether or not that's going to be the case, although some seeds do go for quite a while before we end up going up there. It's always fun when we see an Aghanim kill after an hour in.
Guys are trying to find that bush crab. He wants more rippies. I do not blame him. Got another 40, pretty good number. Tadaru also getting a couple from that as well. It's a piece of heart here in the mushroom spot, and Takaze says no thanks, and Tadaru says yes please. While Takaze drops in now and will claim an arrow upgrade. I'm not sure if that was a mistake to move over to that, although, arrow upgrades can be nice.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't hurt to have a bigger quiver with, when we don't know where silvers are, for example. I mean, regular arrows, that becomes more of an issue, but Takaze getting, I guess it was a Tier 1 the first time around. They must have killed 4 enemies, didn't they? Yeah, they did.
Well, there's a lot of, single heart is a very common drop in prize packs in general, so it's possible that the randomizer actually makes 2 tiers of the tree pull the same thing.
I didn't know that.
I believe that's what happened there.
That would make a lot more sense, yeah. So it's Tier 1 and Tier 2, really not valuable here. They could get 4 kills and take no damage. That would give them Tier 3. But yeah, so they're bomb rich. They have quite a lot of rupees to work with here. This is a really comfortable position. I can't imagine anyone goes to Houlihan, for example, with this many rupees. But we're going to get simultaneous mazes here.
I love the sync here, but here it is. Piece of heart, a red rupee, a piece of heart, 50 rupees. Wow.
Well, no joke about the cash flushness of this seed. We're still going to pick up all these blue rupees for Tadaru here, and Takaze just getting them on the way back. So we've got almost enough for Zora already. I got to think Fake Flippers looks a little more appealing in this situation.
Yeah, as long as they're able to get up to that 500 number, they will be talking to the bottle vendor, and they'll be spending 100, so that'll, put them slightly further away. But boy, this seed has been giving in pretty much only one regard, and that is rupees. Everything else has been pretty pretty stingy. We haven't really seen any interesting items yet.
I'm hoping that they remember that on their way to Mini Moldorm Cave. Well, forget the fake flippers.
We'll just do real flippers, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bush grab on the way to where the fake flippers location would be, so that is one way that they continue getting more rupees. But I don't think they're even going to leave Kakariko with less than like 600 at this point.
Yeah, there's a very good chance of that. And they did also pick up a blue potion in a bottle in that well, so the blue potion will be really nice, of course, but the bottle in particular will unlock the Sick Kid. So they are getting access to a bunch of locations, but the progression is pretty slow going here. Flippers are really the first significant progression item they've gotten, and so far it's just going to lead to more overworld checks.
Well, based on the appearance of that piece of heart, it appears that Link does love Chicken Shack. Preferred fast food joint, apparently.
Eat more chicken.
Oh, yeah, that just reminds me of the cow commercials. some things are advertised well, but I always thought that was kind of weird. But
oh, there we go. Yeah, that's a great item to get right now. So that'll allow the faster strat on the dam. It'll make it slightly faster to do that. Tadaru did take a quick detour to get bombs from the shop. Takaze picking up a fighter sword from the back of the tavern. Tadaru will be following suit shortly. So now we're starting to see some progression. And yeah, that mirror is going to make the dam a little bit quicker to do. And once they get that Dark World access, it's going to be very, very nice as well.
Absolutely. We have the library check here from Takaze. We're finding out the boots are only going to get us 10 arrows. I got to ask you, Villagen, you know, the sword in the back of the tavern, does this mean that the tavern owner is a veteran of the Sealing War? ALTTP lore time. It's okay. I think it's all right for me to laugh at my own joke there.
Oh man, so Tadaru is actually just going straight into the maze here. He thinks, you know what, I've gotten little enough stuff that it's worth a try. I believe it was just 20 rupees there, so not really going to pay off for him, but this also isn't all that slow, so it's not a huge deal. And, you know, if there were something nicer, then Takaze would be coming out and losing it. It's just one of those kind of wagers that you take.
I mean, after all, they do tell you only have 15 seconds, so it doesn't take that long to get through here.
Exactly.
But that's a bust. We're going to check the dam here. We can do this. If we had the hook shot, we could just grab the chest in a clip, but we're just going to use the mirror erasure glitch to get rid of that. Because the block is turned into a sprite while it's in motion, you can actually make the game completely delete it. It's kind of funny, but it only works in caves and areas where the mirror doesn't work normally.
Right, you can't use that inside a dungeon, so that's... Oh, hey, there's a flute. That's really nice to pick up. But yeah, you can't use that inside like a dungeon or something, and usually people will like make that mistake just one time. They'll be like, oh yeah, you know, I want to erase this block in a dungeon, and then suddenly you're back at the bottom of Ganon's tower, and you're like, oh no, why did I do that?
Yep. Well, I mean, flute's really nice to get real early, though. I mean, gosh, I'm trying to think of when you would activate it. You know, at this point, it would almost be faster than walking to Ice Cave.
Yeah, I think you would pretty much save and quit and head there immediately, because it'll just give you so much access to the world a lot quicker than you otherwise would get it, and then you can just flute to 8 to go to Ice Rod Cave. So I'm going to bet that we're going to see both runners do that. Takaze, meanwhile, is getting a lot of bombs, so it's really nice for him. Didn't have to take that time to head to the shop to buy bombs, and is also just constantly picking them up here, so his bomb count's really doing well. There's a Master Sword. Boy, this smells like Aghanim.
Yeah, that seems to be the sad thief cave. Almost all the items are blue there. We had a Master Sword. We also had the blue meringue, also known as the best meringue. So big win for Takaze here to get that even just a little bit sooner than Tadaru. That blue meringue is really going to shave frames here.
Everyone's favorite item, dude. Except many people. Oh, what was that for Tadaru? He threw that bomb right on top of his mini Moldarms, and it just did not hit. That's crap.
I've seen discussion of this recently. That may have actually been a frame rule.
Oh my gosh, what a video game.
Yep, this game is absolutely perfect with 0 flaws, folks.
Well, in any case, he did a good job handling that cave with bombs. He is doing the same thing Takaze just did. Save and quit. He will go activate that flute. Takaze opted to deal with the mini Moldarms with this sword instead, so even though Tadaru picked up a bomb drop along the way, he is still lower in his bomb count than Takaze. May not matter too much, as long as you know where you can pick up bombs along the way. You can usually manage it pretty well, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so in some like really high level, play-making decisions, like somebody might choose to do Palace of Darkness based on bomb routing at some point. We do have the mirror, so we can get repetitive bombs as we go through there. But as far as, using bombs in general goes, having 3 at a time is usually a pretty safe place to be.
Yeah, there's lots of places where you can pick up a single bomb to refresh that count. So even if you're pretty low, you have plenty of options. Takaze is going to start his flipper checks right now, and he's starting with the Lake Hylia Island, which is a piece of heart. And
gotta love that vanilla.
Yep.
Well, so that's
nice
2 gooses loose in 15 minutes, yeah?
That's true, yeah. We talked over that one. All the fans hate us.
Well, unfortunately, the duck can't hurt us. It can't hear us. Can't have his feelings hurt by us. There's not much we can do about that.
All right, so Tadaru opts for a slightly different approach. He goes to Death Mountain first, and he is going to work on that. Takaze going back for Ice Rod Cave, and he is still short on money for Zora, so wonder if he's going to try something like maybe going back for a couple bush crabs to farm up some rupees, or he's just going to skip that entirely for now.
Yeah, given the access to the flute and we have the flippers, I mean, it's not, I guess, as imperative, I would think, to... Oh, was that a nice bomb drop again for Takaze? Oh my goodness.
Wow, the swords. Oh, okay, that's a bomb burst medallion for Takaze coming out of Ice Rod Cave. That's a really good pickup to have. You do want to have those medallions as early as possible, so you don't have to worry about trying to fish them up when you need them for those 2 dungeons. But of course, we do still have 2 pendants not known, so it's possible that both Meyer and Eternal Rock are pendants. That would be something for sure.
I mean, already at this point, we haven't even seen Dark World. We may get a check from Tadaru here because, we will access this portal. Haven't seen the Moon Pearl at all yet. But if we end up seeing, say, that particular scenario, this could be an incredibly fast seed with Tempered Sword at, 16 minutes or so. I mean, that's a tremendous advantage for every dungeon.
Yeah, it'll make those dungeons way, way easier. It'll make this seed be a little more about routing rather than execution. Now, oh gosh, Takaze, very close to taking a death from these boulders.
What a save.
Wow.
I noticed there was boulders falling down, but the stone's on that, man.
Oh gosh, I'm just gonna carry on. Tadaru finding the hook shot right in the basement cage of Harris. That's a really nice pickup. Going to give them both access to the east side of DM, and he'll probably opt to go ahead and finish Hera, assuming that he does get the well, no, he has a fire source, so he will have to do the basement, but he will go ahead and do that, and he'll finish the dungeon up. We'll see how Takaze opts to approach it. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't just finish the dungeon, but, maybe someone goes crazy and has some really weird routing decisions.
Yeah, we couldn't have picked a much better location for that hook shot, though. I mean, that's going to give us immediate access to East Death Mountain, which is really nice to be able to do. Unfortunately, no lift upgrades means that we're not going to be able to check Dark Death Mountain, no Moon Pearl either, so we'll definitely be coming back up the mountain unless we find all of those things.
Yeah, that's a good point. Takaze actually going slightly out of his way to make sure he picked up that big 20 that was right there. Now, Tadaru actually has more money available than him right now, which is interesting given that Tadaru also did the bomb purchase in the shop. Takaze right now, I think Tadaru actually went out of his way to get an extra bush crab or 2, whereas Takaze has not done that. So we'll see if he opts to do that at some point, but he does have plenty of options before he does need to go check out that Zora area.
Is it just me, or there have been like bomb drops in every prize pack all over this entire seed?
It has seemed that way, and Takaze is getting every single one of them. Tadaru has gotten enough bombs, but he did have to buy once, whereas Takaze has just gotten all the luck in that regard.
But by the looks of things, since we don't have the boots, nobody's going to be able to do the fancy swag boomerang coffee break. So, I don't know. I mean, definitely an easy opportunity to practice your booms, but we're going to hopefully get a coffee break by bomb here.
Yeah, we'll see. Takaze appeared to be kind of thinking about it. Oh, wow. Okay, he got knocked away, but barely managed to set it up so he can take a quick rest for the rest of this room. He already spent a bunch of it doing stuff. Tadaru, meanwhile, up to the next floor that actually has items. So here we go with these chests. There's a map in that one. And then he's going to go upstairs to drop down to the big chest, which is usually a good play if you don't have the boots. That bomb jump is pretty easy to have problems with, and if you do, you drop all the way back to the beginning, so really not a great thing to have happen.
Yeah, and the safest setups for it usually involve dashing or having the boots. You could hookshot over there, but you'd have to fall down more floors, and it would take longer if you didn't have the boots to bunk back. So definitely makes a lot of sense for what Tadaru did there.
All right, well, Tadaru has collected his compass from that chest, so the last item is on Moldorm. We'll get to it in just a little bit as Takaze follows suit. Both runners pretty much neck and neck so far. Of course, Takaze has checked a few things that Tadaru hasn't, but otherwise, they're pretty even, and most likely Tadaru is going to check all that flipper stuff before he goes to Aghanim anyway, so they'll pretty much end up even.
Well, you say it as if it's like a given thing that we're going to Aghanim this seed. I see you're holding out your hope there.
Well, it's not even hope. Like, you get the swords early, you get that lamp early, you just know you're going to Aghanim. It's happening. You might as well accept it.
Well, hey, this is of interest. Looks like Takaze did opt to drop down that floor. And by the looks of it, yeah, I mean, it's not that much of a difference, really.
Yeah, no, it is pretty much about the same if you have the hook shot. Meanwhile, we had an item on Moldorm, and it was a nice item. It was the Moon Pearl. So there you go with 1/3 of our Dark World access.
That's like French vanilla.
Yeah, it is. It was close. And having that thing in his hand, Tadaru can't quite do anything particularly special yet, but he does have that hook shot, which he's going to use to go east, young friend, and check out the east side of Death Mountain.
A+ reference. But yeah, with the Tempered Sword, this Moldorm fight's a lot easier. So, I mean, we saw how quickly Tadaru finished it. Takaze, as long as we don't have a bad bounce, should be pretty quick with it as well. So both of our runners at 22 minutes have their Moon Pearl. We're going to get all 7 of these checks, though, absolutely, before we go anywhere else.
It's a blue mail, and that's a heart container. That heart container will definitely be appreciated. Takaze actually had fewer hearts because of that decision he made all the way back in the Lost Woods to skip that one heart piece that was just lying around. That leaves him a full heart short right now, which is not a fun place to be when it's only 4. But he will get a 5th one shortly, and we are going to get these 5 item checks. It is a big 20. It is bombs. A bomb upgrade. Oh man, I'm so excited about this cave. 50 rupees and a red rupee. Yeah, so exciting.
Inventory cave, pretty much just on your status bar. Unfortunately, Tadaru wasn't able to pull off the bomb jump. You have to be basically on the farthest bottom left pixel of that platform in order to get the bomb to send you across. Saves a little bit of time heading to the top of the mountain, but you can always just walk right around.
Yeah, it's one of those bomb jumps that you would classify as not very difficult, but also not very difficult to miss. You are standing right next to a big hole in the ground. So not a huge deal, just having to trek his way back up. However, you know, Takaze can take a little advantage of that and save some time compared to his opponent by getting that properly. Meanwhile, he is collecting his garbage from inside this cave. Tadaru finds out that it's just a big 20 on the Death Mountain Island, and now he is going to take a long walk through a big cave.
Ah, yes, Pump Cave. For those of you who aren't familiar, there is an NMG speed tech called pumping where you can try and alternate Link's walking animation in certain directions, and this would be a great place to practice it. You really never see it in NMG, but you could save a couple seconds. No, I'm just kidding. You'd save about like half a second if you do it really well.
And it's 100 rupees there. So Takaze had the same problem with the bomb jump, so he's also going to have to trek his way back up. And now we're going to see Tadaru take a trip, and where is he heading? Is it 8? It is 6. So he's going to check out the desert area, see what's on that ledge, see what's in Agina's cave.
Well, just a quiver upgrade on the ledge, so desert is not immediately important intel-wise. We don't have a book or the lift upgrade to get into the Meyer version of the area. But Agina's cave, now that we have the flute, is a pretty quick check. And if we haven't wrapped up Ice Rod, this would be a good time to be doing it as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him head for those flippers checked shortly after this. Takaze will also have his, he'll have exactly 599 rupees after this spiral cave, so that'll be a good opportunity for him to also go do the wrap up of those flippers spots. There's not much overworld left before Aghanim becomes the only option, and so I have again a pretty strong feeling that we're doing Aga. It's just a question of when.
Yeah, just like Obi-Wan Kenobi, Sahasrahla is our only hope at this point. You know, we have 3 items in the back of his shack, and then there is, of course, whatever we can find in Eastern, but that's a double dip people want to avoid because you can actually wrap that together with Palace of Darkness, and that would be the best way to do it if we have opportunity to do so.
It's actually a great point. I'd completely forgotten about Eastern Palace and such, but Tadaru was heading that direction, but he says, actually, I'm going to go for a swim first instead. He goes from Link's house, which is a completely reasonable choice. He'll check out that hobo and then almost certainly also head up and do what Takaze is doing, which is checking this waterfall ferry, which just has a net and another red rupee. Now it's up to Zora and his ledge to give us something nice.
Yep, so this is going to round out our overworld checks besides Eastern area. There are 2 items we can access here. We don't have to worry because we do have the flutes. Or the flute. Probably not Sandcart, but it's some kind of heart container.
I'm going to guess Takaze is going to skip it, but I'm going to guess he's going to feel a little bad about skipping it because he's still on 5 hearts, and 5 is not really a great number in Randomizer. I mean, like, you can certainly get by. Takaze's run no major glitches, so he's certainly experienced in dealing with low health situations and stuff, but it doesn't make it especially fun. Oh, hey, piece of heart.
Yeah, we're talking about the piece of heart he skipped earlier, and he just gets rewarded with his full container thanks to that find there. So he could actually look pretty healthy if he grabs this one, and he is walking that direction.
Yeah, so I guess he's saying, you know what, I'm tired of being at such a low heart count, so I'm going to go ahead and just get this. It's not that long to go get it, and honestly, there's a decent chance Tadaru will do so as well. They've both kind of been less than happy with this small heart count over the start of the seed. Now, Takaze definitely looks like he is heading for fluting.
Interesting.
He remembered Eastern Palace. Yep, there you go.
But, I mean, in this situation, he's got all this health to work with, no bow. He could, well, if only we could kill the red Igors with Boomerang, because we could kill Armos with Boomerang. It's very slow, very annoying, but it is possible. There's no reason to unless you had, like, no arrows.
So I think Takaze was about to do the thing I just nearly did, which was that I, for a second, was like, oh, you know, there's nothing left except Agina, and I still need 2 items for Dark World access, so I'd better just go straight to Aga. But that's not right.
We also saw something kind of funny on Takaze's screen, accidentally picking up the bomb instead of the pot there. And it wasn't even close enough to blow up the hole, but we'll get a bunch of rupees from the backs of the hospital's hut, so our cowboy friend has been hoarding some money.
What a guy. Got a pretty decent load of rupees there. Now Takaze fluting again.
So 4.
All right. He says, no, it's not in Eastern. It's Aga. I'm just going to Aga.
You know, that's a really interesting gamble. I wonder if that's some metagaming in play here because, you know, I mean, you know that your opponent is either going to go to Eastern or go to Aghanim at this point. There's nothing else to do. And in all likelihood, they're probably hiding your heels having made pretty much the same decision. So it's an interesting gamble. I'm wondering if Tadaru will jump into Eastern here.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a percentage play where you're saying, look, there's 3 non-dungeon items in Eastern Palace. I've gotten, like, nothing so far. I still need 2 separate items to get into the Dark World without doing Aga. There's just so little chance that 2 of the items in Eastern Palace are going to be either 2 lift upgrades or the Power Glove and the Hammer. It's just so unlikely.
And I think that the logic that you're talking about is very sound. You know exactly what you're going to have, and it is possible that those things could be in Eastern. It's just not very likely. So, you know, I mean, it's kind of interesting to see what we're going to see on Pyramid at this point. You know, I mean, there's the Hammer that could give us access to more world. There's, you know, easily Fire Rod or Bow. Bow would be very nice because then when we go to Palace of Darkness, we'd have it out.
Yeah, we're gonna see how that'll play out as he does get to the Dark World. I'm gonna guess the pyramid doesn't really have much to show us because we pretty much have a significant number of items now we have accumulated. Took a little while, but we got there. But the question is, what's in Eastern? Will Takaze just go ahead and head over there, or we'll go to like Village of Outcasts first? You know, what are we gonna see? We are seeing from Tadaru that Eastern Palace place, so we're gonna find out what Takaze passed up on here.
Yeah, if it turns out that Bo is in here, that would be really great news for Tadaru because it'd be quite a while before Takaze would come back into Eastern, even with access to other dungeons. And eventually would have to anyway. You can't do Palace of Darkness, for example, without, Bo. Although that could be a pendant at this point. We don't really know just yet. But the first chest is going to be a map, so pretty good chance that it's going to be locked behind Armos as well.
Takaze busting out the boomerang for this room. Oh, I love it. The NMG strats. There you go, dude.
Circle of pots, baby. And good RNG, too.
Yeah, you got the right red guard patrolling the correct way so he didn't get in the path of the pots. So that was really nice. Tadaru, here we go for the second chest in Eastern. It contains a big key, so he'll continue along his way, see what he can find.
Oh, looks like you got 1.0 there.
Oh, that's the worst.
So in the 1.0 version of the game, you can take damage even after you've fallen into a pit, and floor masters can actually grab you from the pit and take you back to the start of the the dungeon. Just got patched out afterwards, but since the Japanese 1.0 version has the glitches we want to use for speed tech, Randomizer is based on that. If you didn't know.
Yeah, so there's a couple little things that you just kind of have to be, aware of and just deal with when you run Randomizer. There's a gold sword. That's completely ludicrous. Won't actually speed up Aghanim's Tower that much for Tadaru, so Takaze's not losing out big time by not having gotten that. There's a compass, so the remaining two items are in the next chest and the armor nuts, I believe.
So, I mean, there is a very small chance that Tadaru can finish this if it is Bo in the next chest, but beyond that, he's probably going to double dip this.
Yeah, it seems very likely. The Bo being in here is incredibly unlikely, and he also, we know, cannot get Dark World access from this dungeon at this point, because he would have to get two items, neither of which is the Bo, and that's just, there's not enough chests left for that.
So, while it does save some time, particularly on bosses, and a couple of specific enemies like those gold guards in Aghanim's Tower, we're really not going to see a lot of time save like you mentioned with Butter Sword, but it's a great comfort item to have. You know you're not going to be doing something like, Master Sword Cannon or, Tempered Sword Cannon. It's going to be, oh, wow.
Okay. That changes things a little bit. That boots in that last chest in Eastern. Now, Tadaru can't actually go any further, so he's got to save and quit. There's no real quick way for him to get out, but those boots are very, very significant right now, so he's actually going to go check those boot spots. Takaze, meanwhile, demonstrating, here's how you get to the West Dark World if you don't have a lift upgrade, and if you don't have the hammer, you use flippers and hookshot. Yep,
a lot of people forget that there is actually, a place you can jump out right here. And then you can hookshot over with the game very kindly points to it with an arrow in the light world and the dark world.
Well, unfortunately for Tadaru, the boot's not paying out that huge as far as progression, but boy, are they going to make this Aghanim Tower way faster.
And like we talked about before, it's very unlikely that Takaze is going to jump into Eastern Palace until we have that bow. We don't know anything about where it could be at this point, though. There are quite a lot of locations available to us. Skull Woods, Thieves Town, Village of Outcasts, and when we get some lift upgrades, we'll have a little bit more expandability from there. We still need to have the hammer in order to, as far as I can remember, in order to get to stuff like Hype Cave, though. Oh, you could go all the way around, couldn't you?
Yeah, no, it is possible to get all the way around, but we'll see how long it'll take Takaze to do that. Throwing up an extra bomb there just by a minor mistake. Big 20 in Graveyard Ledge. Unfortunately, if he had those boots right now, he would be able to check King's Tomb, but he cannot do that. He will, however, just return to the Dark World. He'll probably maybe do like a North Dark World circuit, hit up Skull Woods. I don't know, we'll see. He has some options available to him.
Yeah, we're starting to see some of the frustration aspects of not having a lift upgrade, having to go through this graveyard in a very long path, having no ability to just kind of pop out there like most people are pretty used to being able to do. Without a lift upgrade, our options become very narrow. We can't even do, say, for example, the basement of... Well, I think we can go the long way around in the basement of Thieves Town, but very limited options. We do have a map check. We have a 5 crystal on Misery Mire, and Ice Palace and Skull Woods are pendants.
Yep, and that means that we will need the medallions for 2 different dungeons. We will need the bow for both Eastern and Pod, both crystals. So, if you want to start thinking about pedestal possibilities, chat, feel free. We'll leave that to you. Meanwhile, Takaze is going to head straight on into Skull Woods. He actually looks like he skipped the bumper cave check, which, you know, is fine. He doesn't have cape, so he wouldn't be able to get whatever's there anyway. It's fairly common to check it if you're on your way through Skull, but not necessarily 100%.
And there's 2 different schools of thought on that. Some people are viewing like the Lumberjack Cave the same way. Hey, if I don't have boots, what's the point of me checking it? I think the information's worth it, but only if you're in the neighborhood. So I mean, that would have been a good time to check it, but certainly makes sense not to. You know, like you mentioned before, we don't have that cave.
Yeah, and every runner routes differently too. So for some runners, the knowledge might be more likely to make them do something bad that is actually undesirable. But
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, me too. In this case, we'll see how it works out. Takaze, so far, just finding a couple keys. So all 3 of the keys for Skull Woods are all in this front section. 2 on the left there, and then 1 in the pinball room that Takaze is not going to go to because he's already got plenty of keys.
And a map as well, so it looks like Moth, yeah?
Well, there are 3 other chests, so one of them could have, or actually both of them other than Mothula could have that. However, without the Fire Rod, he can't get to whatever the second item is. He should be able to get to 1. We'll see.
Oh, right, the big chest. I'm sorry, I mixed that up. And then we have this big key room. This would be a fantastic time to have that kind of Samaria. You could just skip this puzzle altogether, but actually doing pretty well with the mummies here. We're going to get the Aghanim fight as well for Tadaru.
Yeah, and it looked like it was pretty a reasonable amount of blue balls for Takaze. Tadaru, of course, will get the same pattern of blue balls as that is fixed in the randomizer. Oh, Takaze has the statue in just the worst possible spot where it's hard to grab it because of the weird animation thing that just keeps happening. But he managed to get through.
Fun thing about the room Takaze's in, it's one of the few rooms in the entire game where the enemy's spawn positions are actually random.
So he actually got no items in Skull Woods. He didn't even get the big key, so you can't check that big chest. So the 2 dungeon items must be either in the Mothula area chest and on Mothula, or they must be in the big chest and one of those 2 back locations. But in either case, he can't get them at all until he can go to the back with Fire Rods. So gonna have to go to Village of Outcasts a little bit empty-handed right now. That's kind of an unfortunate thing to happen with that time investment. But on the other hand, I mean, there's a very good chance Tadaru will do the same. So it shouldn't cost him too badly.
Yeah, something of note in version 29 that we'll see with the key logic, the key that you need to use to open something can be in the chest, you know, that it needs. So that big key chest could have that big key if the dungeon doesn't require the big key. Skull Woods doesn't. Same thing for Thieves Town. It could be possible that our runners might not even need hammer to full clear it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's become increasingly common to kind of confidently go into Thieves Town, even if you don't have the hammer. I know I will at least, and I've seen a lot of runners just be like, if I'm there and Thieves Town's open, I'm going in. There's a shovel for Takaze coming out of the brewery in the south of the village. So I'm going to guess he's going to head up, do the chess game, of course, and then take a step into Thieves Town, but we'll see. Definitely the hammer is always in the back of your mind. There's a chance that you need that big chest, and if you don't open on your first visit, boy, does it suck to go back.
Yep, and I've even seen people, you know, skipping blind who had flippers, for example, like just random, really strange, you know, locations that it'd be very easy if you found one progression item early to just dip and run, but sometimes you really just got to commit to the entire dungeon.
So here we go. Takaze is starting from the front, of course, and we'll find out whether he is going to commit to the entire dungeon. But from Tadaru's side, we got that Graveyard Ledge, and we should have that King's Tomb check coming up right after this. We'll see whether he remembers to do that.
We know that there are 4 chests in the front half of Thieves Town. There's going to be a big key, and then of course, so I mean, there's like 3 different sections I would call of this dungeon. You know, you got the front half, you've got the upstairs and basement, and then Blind himself. Once you've taken the Fair Maiden, quote unquote, and discarded with the skin suit.
All right, wow, there's bonk spots, both having 300 rupees, so basically no major cost to Takaze for not having that item, other than, of course, every dungeon's going to be incrementally slower, but really that might not end up being that huge of a deal. It comes down to routing, if he's going to be able to have superior routing and make up some of that time that Tadaru will save traversing the world.
Yeah, it's definitely a very painful thing to not have him early, just for the sake of the combined, time save over the course of the run. But superior routing could absolutely make that difference. If Tadaru, for example, ends up exploring, 6 or 7 locations with long treks between them, that makes up all that difference and then some.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Tadaru did go out of his way to check that bumper cave, and what he found is that it's a piece of heart, so something that Takaze will not at all miss having not checked, and also, of course, will not really ever need to go back for either runner. But now we're continuing back into the second half. Takaze, he is sticking with this dungeon. Definitely a reasonable play given how much they still need.
Yeah, at this point, we don't have a bow, rods, hammer. I mean, this is a pretty bare seed so far.
We're missing 2 of the medallions, missing the cane, both lift upgrades.
That being said, we are running pretty low on options. Village of Outcasts, and then we can start doing kind of the south check of Dark World, with some kind of strange routing to have to come around it. I suppose Dig Game is on the table.
Yep, and so is the South Dark World stuff up to including Hype Cave, so those will get taken a look at pretty soon. We'll be able to combine Stumpy with that shovel, which is nice. The mirror makes things a lot more efficient, which is really good. But we'll see how those checks go as they get to them. But right now, Thieves Town, definitely a good play. Collect a crystal, get out of the way. It's a dungeon you can full clear. Tadaru doing the same Stolwitz play and collecting his same absolutely nothing. So much like Takaze, he is going to eat a bunch of time here for basically no reason.
I'm kind of wondering, in terms of, kind of playing the game as it unfolds, a lot of people talk about the wisdom and value of reading the logic. And I got to think at this point, if you find something progression, it's very likely to lead to a whole lot more progression, isn't it?
I think there's a good chance of that. You got to be a little careful on that, the concept of reading the logic, because the problem is that there is like a logic as far as, if the randomizer puts an item in like a very restricted location, then it has to give you the other items more easily to access that. However, like it's also going to give you a bunch of other completely unrelated items, right? So like it's going to give you the powder at some point just out of nowhere, but the powder might lead to nothing. And it's the same way with Mitt. Like Mitt might just be because look, you need to get to these crystal dungeons, so I'm putting the Mitt here where it is accessible without having to go into those dungeons. But that doesn't necessarily mean that getting the Mitt means, oh, go over to those dungeons or whatever. So it's very difficult to really read much beyond like the beginning of the seed. The beginning you can definitely do some reading, but later on it becomes significantly harder to get a meaningful info out of it.
So I'm kind of curious to see if anybody's going to kind of psych themselves out of the correct choices, or at least item-dense choices, things that would make more sense statistically speaking. We are really low on health for Takaze here, though. 3 hearts to work with for this last phase of Blind, but it seems like he managed to pull it off with the Cane of Burna. Yeah,
good adaptation by him to just get that cane out and say, you know what, I don't really want to have any significant problems on this. I'm just going to get over with. Plenty of magic left at that point, too. And he does collect his silver arrows as his prize off of Blind. So that's a pretty nice prize. Tadaru will be heading into Thieves Town as well. I would expect to see him clear it and get his silvers also, but no bow to go with, so I guess right now they can't really do anything with it.
It's kind of like having creamer but no coffee.
Basically, yeah. I mean, cream's good. in limited amounts.
Well, you only have to use so many silvers, so I guess that kind of does make it a little more appropriate. We will get a digging game check here for Takaze. All right, so how many digs is it going to be today, Booligan?
Hopefully not very many, but we'll see. I'm going to go with 5. Let's go with 5.
I'm saying 13.
All right. At least that's not like a rude number, so I don't, feel offended or anything. When people start being like, oh, I think it's going to take 29, it's like, come on. That's just mean.
Well, we're crossing the 20 threshold here.
Yeah, we're well past both of our guesses. There it is. At least it's a heart container, so that's a nice... I mean, we're still sitting on 8 hearts total for Takaze, and Tadaru on 6, because he actually skipped the heart container that was on the Zora ledge, so both of these runners being asked to do a lot of stuff with very, very little in the way of resources. And also, what I just realized? As we're walking along here, we have nearly all of the items necessary to do Swamp. All we're missing is that hammer.
Wow, no joke. Yeah, that's exactly the case. And, K45 here only having a big 20, we're definitely really hurting for that hammer. It makes a lot of our navigation much easier. Next time we want to come back this way, if we don't have the hammer, we're doing that long trek. And Takaze, who probably, again, isn't going into Eastern anytime soon, would definitely not want to do that.
Takaze using the NMG strat, going around to the left side of Stumpy because he knows he's going to have to go over here. They should dig towards the right because that's the correct NMG strat and get his big 20. Now he's going to mirror back and head back into the Dark World. So he's got 5 more checks available to him. And then, man, I feel like Swamp is hinted, but where's that hammer? Without that, nobody is going into Swamp to check one chest and hope it's the hammer. They're not doing that.
Well, it'd be quite a trip to go all the way around here and find the hammer in Hype Cave, but it's almost starting to look a little bit like that. I'm not sure exactly what else we can explore here.
Yeah, there's not very many options. It really feels like Hype Cave has got to have the thing. We know that boots were in Eastern, but we know that they led to nothing, just rupees. So here we go. This Hype Cave. The hype index is really high right now. Here it is. The generous guy has a bow. That's huge for Takaze. In the back, we've got a big 20. We've got a heart container, another one, very nice, 300 rupees, and a blue rupee. So, quote unquote, only the bow. But you know what? Actually, I think Takaze will probably take it.
Yeah, this is also good news for other reasons as well. Takaze will be more inclined to go finish Eastern thinking that, hey, I left some items in there. It very well could be something important. Boots would be good to find regardless. So any kind of time difference, I mean, there's been, about a 20-minute difference in how long they've had the boots. That's not that bad.
Yeah, and now Takaze almost certainly going to be heading in that direction of Eastern and Pod. Pod, of course, will be fully explorable thanks to that bow. Now he's going to have to go for a little bit of a swim around here to try to get access to Pod. But yeah, that is also going to encourage him to go to Eastern. He can full clear Eastern. As I recall, Armos did have an item on them, so there could be something important there, but we'll see when he gets there. Tadaru, I'm sure, will be following the same path, so he'll be able to make his way over to Pod and Eastern as well, but for right now, it looks like Takaze has a pretty solid lead.
Yeah, certainly in terms of progression at this point, that bow find, and it could be possible that Tadaru would forget about, being able to access certain, locations because of this configuration of items. That would be the worst case scenario for Tadaru here, but as far as we can tell, it looks like it's going to be about a half a dungeon advantage right now, based on how far Takaze is going into Pod. Also of note, 777 rupees for Takaze. He's probably feeling pretty lucky right now.
I wonder if he'll mirror to Eastern and do that first. I'm not sure which I would rather do personally. There's as good of a chance that you get something in Eastern to make Pod easier as there is just there's nothing in Eastern. Looks like he is doing that though. Probably gonna hope maybe the hammer's in Eastern. That would make Pod full clearable. So if it's good for him, it's gonna get him the boots sooner, and he's then going to open up via those boots. He's gonna open up better routing possibilities in Pod to try to take advantage of key counting, which is something that I know he'll be looking to do.
It's an underrated skill in Randomizer. If you can, really get a good sense of what is available in the dungeon based on what keys, you do find. Palace of Darkness is probably the most valuable place to have it. But just simply knowing the counts and being able to route based on that will save you a lot more time than you'd think in Randomizer.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see that when he goes in there. Palace of Darkness is pretty special, of course, as far as dungeons go, due to having 6 keys, the most of any dungeon, even compared to Ganon's Tower. Meanwhile, Takaze is just getting through these same sections of Eastern Palace that Tadaru has already been through, and of course we know that he's not getting anything useful until that vanilla big key chest. I'm having, like, brief, like, kind of nightmare moments of thinking, like, what if he gets really clever and thinks like, you know what, I'm going to gamble that one chest has an unneeded item, but no, surely he won't do that.
It's actually a very common gamble. It's one that I'm a proponent of, so I'm kind of worried as well, because, if you have a 50-50 coin flip and big key chest takes a little longer to get to, I mean, you might just end up double dipping because, that's that one item and he knows he needs the hammer.
Well, it isn't, the thing is, it's not a 50-50 in the sense of, there is an item on Armos, and there is an item in that big key chest, and he'll know by the time he gets there. So rather, it would just be like, maybe I'll hedge my bet and think, or sorry, not hedge my bet. I'll just think, oh, the item in here might not be important, I don't need to spend the time to get it. But fortunately, he's not doing that, so he will get those boots, and that entire line of conversation is irrelevant.
Hey, it's always fun to theory craft, though. I mean, looking at, basically the difference between our runners now, Tadaru's got about 5 minutes or so that he's got to catch up. So all the little ways that the elite can change and ebb and flow, we're definitely interested in discussing.
Yeah, now fortunately for Tadaru, he's cleared all of Eastern Palace so far, so it's not going to get too crazy. He'll be able to get back through the left side pretty quickly. He won't have to check any of those chests or any of that. Now, he does have to retraverse a significant amount of the dungeon, but since it's a fast dungeon, it won't actually end up overall costing him that much time. So it really just comes down to Takaze having kind of gotten into the Dark World sooner, and now he can combine this visit to Eastern with this upcoming visit to Pod, and in that way it ends up being more efficient. So we'll see how this works out for him. For both.
Also, we're about 50 minutes in, or 52 minutes in. I've had recently a swordless seed. This is a liftless seed. Which would you prefer personally?
I think I'd take a liftless, because the nice thing about liftless is it limits you so much as far as what's even available, so it becomes a little bit easier to follow the logic and a little bit easier to get to the right place. Whereas swordless, you're not all that limited. You're locked out of finishing Skull, and you're locked out of entering Mire or Turtle Rock, but that's really about it. So, and accessing, like, the tablets. But otherwise, you have so many possible things you can do, and it's just awful. All of them without the sword, too.
I think I probably agree. While swordless can be frustrating for a boss fight perspective, you get the right items, doesn't matter. But as far as boss fights go, Takaze's going to be done with this before I can even explain it. Silver arrows here kill each Armos Knight in one hit, and that's it.
There they go, and there's a Fire Rod. So there was definitely progression on Armos Knights. Great pickup for Takaze, and Tadaru will get that before too long as well. But right now, we're going to see the pod visit first from Tadaru. He's saying, I don't think it's all that likely that the Armos Knights have the hammer, so I'm just going to go into pod first.
And this is the part that's really frustrating for me personally. If I was in their shoes, I really want to go to Skullwoods at this point, even though that's probably not the right play. Palace of Darkness makes a lot of sense. You have the mirror, you have almost everything you need, and even if you don't find the hammer, you've checked a lot of locations.
Yeah, well, Skull is, right now Skull is hard to say, because at the same time it's a pendant, but you did just get the Fire Rod, and you haven't found that hammer yet, so Swamp is way worse as far as, I don't want to go to frickin' Swamp if I can avoid it. So, yeah, I think Skull is probably the play, but we'll see what ends up showing up here in Pod. Now, Takaze is going to the right side first because he has the boots, and we're going to see him attempt basically to skip this vanilla big key chest, while Tadaru is going straight for it, so he's going to go for the comprehensive approach. That's a book.
So wow.
Takaze is not going to be able to skip that, unfortunately.
Yeah, that does a lot for us, though. Even though it's only green pendant, Desert is now available, and we have, of course, all of the tablets. Since we're not really worried about a sword upgrade at this point, unlocking it, we have the butter sword already.
Yeah. It's so weird to be saying that. We've had that since like 30 minutes in. A weird seed. Takaze finding the first lift upgrade of the seed. There it is, the Power Glove. So that means there are 4 total small keys here in the front, and the 2 non-key items are the Power Glove and the Bomb. So Takaze not having the hammer is going to have to mirror back to the front, and he is going to have to check that big key chest. He'll get to that pretty shortly. He will be able to work out that it's required.
Definitely good for both of our runners to check that side, though. It's something that a lot of people in their routing avoid until the end. And it could potentially lead to somebody miscounting their dungeon items. So it looks like both of them are going to get their Power Glove. I'm kind of curious as to where we could find a Titan Mitt. There are a lot of places available to us now that we have a lift upgrade.
Yeah, but at the same time, actually, it doesn't feel like that much more. I mean, so many things that are blocked by glove are sometimes just, or not blocked by glove, but so many things that you want the glove for are sometimes just available. That said, we will be able to clear Desert Palace, which is a green pendant now. Do you do that instead of Skull? Do you say, you know what, maybe the Fire Rod isn't the key that I want to find, maybe or follow, maybe I want to follow the glove and the book instead?
Well, fortunately for our runners, one thing that has been fixed in Randomizer compared to vanilla game is that Gold Sword does not have issues with Mothula, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to, kill Mothula with a Gold Sword. And we have the Fire Rod as well. But, I mean, I think that my mind wouldn't be able to unhinge itself from that Fire Rod location. I would probably absolutely check Skull Woods, but I think there's a good case to be made, hey, desert areas isn't bad at all right now.
So, Tadaru, unfortunately, we were talking about key counting. Takaze should be able to count this out, but Tadaru unfortunately did not. Where the Harmless Hellway was definitely going to have a key there. The reason that we know this is there were 4 keys up front. There's 6 keys total in the dungeon. And Takaze is going to get 1 here in the dark basement. That's the only one back here on this upper right side of the dungeon. The dark maze cannot have a small key by logic. So Takaze is going to know, since he only got 1 key here, the other one must be in Harmless Hellway. So knowing that, he leaves it behind and he will continue on to the dark maze.
Well, it's not too often we see 2 runners in the dark maze at the same time. Definitely an exciting, kind of close race with these 2 at this point. Piece of Heart being our big key chest item, so we're finding no hammer here today.
That's correct. And in fact, aside from what was in the front, there actually wasn't anything else in pod. That was it. It was just that book, and it was just that Power Glove. I mean, that was a lot, but at the same time, like the back proving pretty much unnecessary for both runners. So we are going to head out. Tadaru is going to wrap up his Eastern Palace and pick up that Fire Rod. And Takaze is going to have a quick think, figure out where to go.
Well, so we have the return to Eastern. Definitely good routing to get both of these at the same time, although the double dip hurts. Takaze, like you mentioned before, has choices to make. So we're going to find out. I mean, it looks to me like either Desert or Skull Woods. I can't imagine where else he would go. But with a Sanctuary saving quit, I think I might be wrong. It might be Kingston.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he definitely wants to hit up at least Bonk Rocks. Unfortunately, momentarily, he's going to realize, wait, I can't go to King's Tomb from the Light World because that requires mitts. Yeah.
There's read his mind.
All right, so I'm going to go to Bonk Rocks instead, and then I'll reevaluate as I go. We'll see what he does from there. We know that both of the Bonk locations contained 300 rupees, which unfortunately at this point in this seed, totally useless. Neither runner really needs this. So he's going to bust out the shovel. Remember that he has the shovel and switch to flute instead. Bust that out, and where are we headed? Desert.
Yep, so I mean, with that book, I mean, we can find out a lot of different things about this particular area. I mean, it's not too hard to figure out what the key logic is in Desert, and plus we have the boots, so it's not going to be like we're going to miss anything. Now, that green pendant could potentially be useful. We have the flute to get back to 5 pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, so Desert overall adding up to be the ledge item, the Aegina's Cave item, which I don't believe Takaze checked earlier. I might be incorrect on that, though. And the 2 items in the dungeon and the green pendant. So a pretty good investment of time compared to Skull, which right now we only believe has 2 items, plus the pedestal check possibility.
Which at this point I'm almost. Oh wow.
Okay, well, it was desert.
So we have found our Titan's mitts in the first chest in Desert Palace. We're going to find out in a moment what this torch has for us, probably a small key. And that'll lead us to the right side, and then that should give us the big key back to the left side.
All right, well, that's some pretty huge progression there in Desert. Tadaru is actually doubling back here to walk out. I wonder where he is planning to head.
This is a very rarely seen portion of the maze.
Get lost, possibly? I think he got lost briefly. That happens sometimes, happens to the best of us.
Not only that, but like in Randomizer, you find yourself going into places that you would almost never see in vanilla.
Yeah, I think more than anything, I'm mostly curious. Okay, so Takaze actually piecing out of Desert right now. With that mitt. Okay, so he's going to take the back entrance, basically. This is actually, I really like this play. He's going to head into the mire area, check that medallion, check the shed, and then he's going to mirror into the side entrance of Desert for a faster path to reach the end. It is Quake for mire, which neither runner has seen yet.
Well, here comes the mire shack. We're going to get half magic and powder. Wow, what a combo.
That is a heck of a combo. That will be interesting to see how that works out.
That's like chocolate and pretzels.
Yeah. God, that sounds good, dude.
Might be the wrong hour for me to be mentioning food. Apologies, chat.
Well, for me, it's like 4:07, so this is like the perfect time of day for like a snack type thing. So another heart container in Checkerboard Cave, and Takaze opts to leave this one behind. He says, you know what, I've spent enough extra time on hearts and stuff like that. So meanwhile, Tadaru is working on Skullwood. So he did take that fire on and said, okay, this is my breadcrumb. So now we're seeing some serious divergence between the two runners, where Takaze is going to wrap up this desert stuff, and Tadaru is going to say, all right, well, what about Skull? And we know that Desert did pay off for Takaze in the form of mitts, but certainly possible for Skull to pay off as well. And Takaze also said, you know what? I'm good with Desert. He may have gotten the second item on the right side. I might have missed that.
Same here, and I'm kind of curious because, I mean, we haven't checked the pedestal or anything. We don't have reason to think that, you know, there's going to be a great need for the green pendant, and for the time sink that it takes to get to Lambola, I can definitely see that being a check you just do later. You know, because we have Mizrameyer access, we can just, you know, warp in there. But here comes that pedestal.
Sorry, chat. But yeah, it was pretty unlikely for the pedestal to be a thing this time around. So yeah. let's do a quick go mode check. We're still missing the hammer. We are also missing the ice rod. We're missing Quake medallion to do Mystery Mire. And I guess it looks like by what Takaze is doing, we're going to find out if we are missing what we need for Eternal Rock as well.
Yeah, so I think the Cane of Samaria is the only other thing that you didn't mention. I mean, that was pretty much everything. So we're pretty much looking for most of our Y item inventory here.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that we've gotten many items, and we're still pretty far from go mode, actually. That's a significant number of items. So we're going to see. I'm sure Takaze is hoping, like, either let Turtle Rock be Bombos, or let it be Quake as well, so that at least I can kill two birds with one stone.
Well, it looks like Takaze is making a pretty standard randomizer choice here, going for item density. We're getting a very rarely seen Bombos out of Tadaru in the Mummy Hell wave. Very smart magic conservation.
Yep, good play to just get rid of these Gibdos if you don't want to burn all your magic on fire rod shots. You can get some magic drop from one of those Gibdos, so that's pretty nice. And he's going to use the lamp here, too. He wants to save up as much as possible for Mothula. Meanwhile, the Super Bunny checks for Takaze 3 bombs and a piece of heart, giving him a heart refill, so he's now up to 10. Tadaru is still rocking 8. I would not be surprised when he does get to that mire area to see him go ahead and pick up the one that was in Checkerboard Cave.
Well, here comes the Turtle Rock check. We're going to find out that's also Quake.
All right, so that's certainly, you know, within the realm of reason. They don't have to go find 2 more medallions on top of everything else. But it is still a medallion they don't have. Meanwhile, Mothula for Tadaru, and that was very clean. And that's a Quake medallion in Hookshot Cave in the first chest, so that's incredibly nice for Takaze. And a hammer.
Whoa!
What else do we got? One more. Ah, just the big 20. Okay.
And that big 20 puts him at a nice symmetrical rupee count, 1414. So you said that was hammer, and I'm sorry, I missed the first time that you said.
It was Quake Medallion.
Oh my goodness, that's a great place to find it as well.
Yeah, that's Mire access. That's well, they can open the door of Turtle Rock. Not that they can do anything in there since they don't have Kane still, but who knows? Let's see the Ether Tablet coming up for Takaze. Looks like Tadaru got the big key on Mothula. Again, I got slightly distracted, but he is walking out rather than fluting away, so probably has to go check that big chest.
Unfortunately for Takaze, he gets the worst boomerang.
Well, fortunately, he already had the good one, so he doesn't need to change anything up.
Looks like he's going to route his Spike Cave check-in now that he has that hammer, though. Very smart choice for Takaze.
Shoutouts to M. Costler in the chat pointing out it was a shield on Mothula. That is what Tadaru picked up. So those were the two items in the skull. And the pendant, of course, we know, unnecessary. Not going to do him any favors, but now he is heading to the south. And where are we going?
Gotta love that piece of heart at the back of Cane of Brian cave. So not a whole lot for Takaze there, but he does wrap up his Dark World checks in the Death Mountain. So that's really nice to be done with and not have to think about, not have to worry about. He's gonna flute in a moment. Right now, Tadaru's heading almost. It looks like well, he has the book. He's probably checking his Bombos tablet.
Yep, and that'll segue very well into another desert place. He's got that book available to enter the front door as well. So he should be getting his mitts pretty soon. Takaze, this is an immediate swamp play as far as I can tell. So that's pretty good. Will get him a fair bit of stuff. He does also have that hammer now to be able to finish up Pod. Probably could do this right after that. But he's really just missing that Ice Rod and that Cane. He's going to be pretty reticent probably to go into Mire without the Cane. But the Ice Rod, I don't know. Sometimes you just gamble that's in Turtle Rock.
I've certainly seen it in Chomp Room more than enough times, let alone Laser Bridge, which is probably the most frustrating place to find it. But yeah, I mean, Desert Check here makes a lot of sense for Tadaru. He's going to find what he needs to in here, which is good. The Titan's Mitts is pretty much the biggest disadvantage he has, whatsoever. It's going to make a lot of sense for him to go to Dark Death Mountain right after this. So Takaze has been padding his lead quite a bit with some really great routing choices.
Yeah, everything's worked out pretty well for him. Gun into Desert, picking up that mitt immediately. That one, that's almost a toss-up, but at the same time, you get that glove and glove and book, excuse me, and you say, I'd rather go to a green pendant than a red pendant. So in that regard, definitely a very savvy play. But at the same time, Rando is Rando. Mitts could just as easily have been in the back of Skull, and it'd be a different game right now. But for now, Takaze picking up a full heart container in the front of Swamp. So finally, we're really starting to see the lid removed off the jar of hearts, the proverbial jar that definitely exists proverbially.
We do get to find out that other item in the right side was 10 arrows.
Ah, okay. Garbage, got it.
Oh, unfortunate luck with the Cannonball RNG, but we do get that big key. So I don't think Takaze checked that big key chest, and probably realizing that it was just going to be a dungeon item.
The vanilla big key chest. No, I believe he did check in and he got his big key. So he does have that if he does end up heading back to the dungeon. Meanwhile, Tadaru is doing pretty much the same play Takaze just did of checking out Mire, getting the shed items, gonna check out Checkerboard Cave, find out it's nothing, and we'll see if he decides to try finishing Desert. I feel like I would be surprised to see that right now, given the amount of stuff that they have. Probably don't want to do that, but who knows. Another heart container for Takaze.
I'm kind of wondering at this point, we know that the other 5-6 crystal is, well, the 5 crystal literally is at Misery Mire. Do you think that either of our runners are going to try and route their Misery Mire with a Pyramid Fairy check if they still are missing, say, the Ice Rod or something else that's kind of weird? Because I guess Ice Rod would be pretty much the one thing you'd be looking for.
Yeah, if you were able to clear Misery Mire, you obviously would have Cane. So the only thing that they could really hope for at Pyramid Fairy would be Ice Rod, and I feel like at that point, you just kind of go to Turtle Rock and you hope that that's the case. Although, of course, it's impossible to get inside the mind of a runner that if you are not the one playing. So Tadaru is doing literally exactly the same things as Takaze, except, as I kind of guessed earlier, he did go for that heart container since he skipped the one on Zora Ledge. He said, you know what, I want a few more hearts, which, as it turns out, will work out just fine later on because he'll get a couple more in Swamp.
Looks like Takaze actually dove right to the back of Swamp Palace to try and get that big key, which is actually very fortunate because he did find it. So he's going to head all the way back to the big key chest, or the big key unlocked chest, and he's going to grab this without having to double dip. Now, whether or not he goes to the left side remains to be seen. He should know where most of the items in the dungeon have been. Yeah,
we'll see shortly as he pulls out a shield from the big chest, but he is continuing to the back, so... we'll see if he opts to come back in for the left side. That's kind of one of those iffy plays. Also, I do want to draw attention to the fact that he did a nice little setup to avoid getting sucked in by the stair glitch that often happens if you use those particular stairs. You basically have to do like a key dash into that door. That is to say, you need to be aligned on a specific pixel. And Takaze went ahead and did that, so he was able to avoid having to take an extra trip back up and down the stairs.
Another common place you'll see something like that is in Palace of Darkness, where the big key normally is in vanilla. If you bonk into the wall right before those stairs, you have the same exact thing happen. And you never want to be walking up and down those stairs 17 times in a row. That's a very easy trap to fall for.
All right, so dungeon items showing up in Swamp on the main path for Takaze means that there's going to be items on that left side. Items, two, not just one.
Yeah, it's true. You have to pretty much the only way that you can avoid going left is if like both of those dungeon items are on the left, and there's no chance for that at this point. Takaze is going to do some pretty standard Argus strats here. Going to get a 1 cycle in the first phase, and presuming that it goes well, it should be a 2 cycle here on the second phase.
Yep, not opting to spend the menu time switching to silvers or anything like that. He just uses the spins, picks up 50 rupees. And now we'll find out as he collects this crystal whether he will go back in to do that left side. Meanwhile, Tadaru getting those Super Bunny items. There was a piece of heart here. Does not trigger a refill for him. I believe he got one earlier. He's been 1 piece of heart ahead of Takaze this entire time. All thanks to that Lost Woods piece of heart way back when. And Takaze is going back inside.
That's one of those interesting things about heart pieces is that, you kind of hope more than anything that you just get one when you have low health and just happens to be the refill. That can actually save a race. I've seen it happen a couple times.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Particularly the best one is like you're on Laser Bridge and you're having a really tough time taking a whole bunch of extra damage, and then the third chest has like a heart piece and it just refills you completely and you can go the rest of the way confidently. So Tadaru inside Hookshot Cave picks up his Quake Medallion. He'll get his hammer as well shortly, and he will be in the same situation as Takaze, just Cane and an Ice Rod away from go mode.
I was worried for a second there. He's pretty low on health. Distinct possibility that if you'd hit a couple of those jellies that, wouldn't even get that hammer and would be coming back, later for it. So good to see that he managed to emerge from that cave unscathed.
He's going to head over to the west, to pick up his Spike Cave item, which, as we know, is just a piece of heart. But, for him, obviously, that's going to be some peace of mind, making sure to check off one more location without forgetting.
Ooh, and showing really great game knowledge, knowing that there's going to be a very high chance of a fairy drop underneath those cardinal direction bushes there.
Yep. So here we go. Takaze has flooded the left side after collecting his key. Fortunately, the nice thing is once you've burned the key from the hookshot side here in the middle room, you cannot flood the other key. It's impossible at that point as long as you've already used the right side key.
Well, nothing in Cane of Burna besides that piece of heart. So finally getting to 10 hearts, Tadaru is definitely at a disadvantage with health here, but more importantly, has not made his way into Swamp yet, which Takaze is almost completely done clearing. We have everything we need to do so, but it looks like Tadaru is going to make that play right now. So just like everything so far, it's very similar plays from both these runners. I'm very surprised, though, to see the time difference, Tadaru having had boots for an extra 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, Takaze was able to really take advantage of that by just making some savvy decisions as far as how he played the seed, and also, you know, not having to make that second trip into Eastern Palace, not doing that before going to Aga, and that worked out really well. He was able to clear Eastern in one go. Unfortunately, the left side of Swamp turning out to be absolutely nothing, so Takaze now has some choices to make, and he is checking his Bomb Burst tablet because he didn't get this earlier, so he will get his. I believe it was nothing.
Yeah, I think it was a piece of heart.
Oh, interesting. Tadaru just backed off of the Swamp play. He is going to finish Pod instead.
And I think chat's pointing out that we may actually have an item on Helmasaur King, and if that's the case, that could be, you know, that fabled Ice Rod, or probably more importantly, the Cane of Samaria at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not at all surprised that Takaze's next play is heading here as well. This makes complete sense to do. After this, I think Takaze, you know, another part of the difference here is Tadaru did Skull, and Takaze has not done that. But as long as Takaze still has neither the Cane nor the Ice Rod, Skull is going to be very tempting, so I would not be surprised to see him head there next. Certainly is more appealing than Ice Palace because, you know, there's a limited number of locations in Skull that you would need to check, whereas Ice Palace would be the entire dungeon for 2 versus 3 items.
Yeah, so I mean, at an hour and 15 minutes, almost 16 at this point, you know, you got to think, you know, where is my opponent at? This is a part of the run where a lot of people will start feeling a little more nervous about, you know, how far they've progressed. Although it has been pretty linear overall, you know, it's very likely that, you know, one little difference in which dungeon you go to or completing, you know, one particular thing that you haven't already could really be nagging at you in the back of the head. So I'm thinking that might be part of the reason that Tadaru went here first, you know, maybe suspecting that Takaze might have opted to finish Pod instead of going into Swamp, as Swamp is kind of annoying to clear without go mode.
And Tadaru, unfortunately, not having Sword Beams, is going to have to, in the next room, menu to switch items to hit the switch, whereas Takaze is going to be able to use those Sword Beams. So a little bit of the no major glitches strats coming into play here, and also just having had better health count in general. But Tadaru does have a slight lead in Pod going into this room. Unfortunately, of course, it's obscured by the fact that Takaze has that Swamp advantage.
Yeah, if it weren't for Swamp Palace completion here, this would look almost like an NMG run right now, because this is pretty much where two runners might actually still be pretty close to each other. But interestingly enough, Tadaru opts to just damage boost through the first turtle. I'm surprised by that, because Helmasaur King, no matter what mail upgrade you have, is somewhat dangerous. We do have silvers, so which is nice, but all of the attacks, even with blue mail, are going to do at least a heart of damage.
Yeah, no matter what, it does take 17 hammer hits to break that face mask. So Takaze will be going into the fight with full health. Tadaru will go in with about half health. I do believe he has at least one potion of some sort, although I don't recall if he ended up using one in Spike Cave, potentially.
I'm pretty sure we have blue potions still.
Yeah, he should be fine then.
Of course, he gets bad energy.
Yeah, that's an unkind fireball spawn, but fortunately, no problem. He's got Helmasaur in a good position there, and almost manages to despawn the shots, but still is fine. Fine, yeah, he's fine. See? Totally fine.
It looks like Takaze had very similar RNG as well, had a very bad fireball right away, and then did like a crazy Matrix dodge of the first one. We get 5-arrow quiver upgrade from Helmasaur King, so while we have some Crystal Sync here, which is very nice to see, it doesn't mean that they found much of anything here.
Yeah, they're still missing both the Ice Rod and the Cane, as before. And there's a lot of one-off locations they can check, and there's 2 dungeons that they can full clear, and then there's a dungeon that they can finish. And yeah, many options. So we're going to see what Takaze is going to choose to do, because his is kind of the more interesting question right now, since he's kind of... Oh, well, they're both going the same direction.
Well then, so we're gonna get a Meyer check here. Neither of them setting up the bird altitude glitch that we've been looking at with spooky action with the fire rod. So I don't think we're gonna see anything like that. They might not be necessarily believing that they're gonna find the the King of Samaria here. Takaze wisely choosing to kill the bird, even though we want to see a bird toss. We don't have Ether as the medallion today, so that wouldn't be possible anyway.
This is very interesting. They both have the option to finish Desert. They both have the option to do Ice. And of course, Tadaru has cleared Skull, but Takaze has the option to do Skull. But they're both saying, those aren't crystal dungeons. Why would we bother? Let's go to a crystal dungeon. Let's make progress on a crystal dungeon. And if it doesn't have the thing, oh well. But this is a pretty good, you know, gamble in that regard, at least.
I can definitely relate to, you know, Tadaru not wanting to do Swamp. I've been always been one to, you know, kind of avoid it. In old logics, you know, old versions, it wasn't really that common to find so many big things in Swamp unless it was like really early. So, I mean, that could be some lingering instincts from other, you know, versions of the game as well. But, I mean, you could also be kind of hedging your bets. Maybe Tadaru feels a little behind and thinks, hey, if I commit to not checking that until later, I could win some time back with Go mode. You know, so you might just be avoiding that in Ice Palace for that reason.
Quick divergence here. Tadaru heads up first, Takaze heads right first. Both of those chests proving useless, a small key and a compass. So we'll have to go a bit left to find something useful.
Well, there are two items here in Misery Mire, and one of them has to be pretty much, you know, that vanilla, you know, King of Samaria at this point. If not, then we are spending a lot of time in here checking a lot of locations and not finding much. We could even find out that Vitreous has the item, which would be the ultimate insult. And if it was Ice Rod, I would laugh heartily.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, it doesn't have to be the case with the Kings in here, because we have so many options left. There's a lot of overworld. The powder's still available. The entire blacksmith chain is available, including the purple chest. There's a number of options. Catfish is there.
Oh yeah.
There's stuff available. So I would definitely not say that this is like the last thing available by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I suppose if they want to finish the dungeon in this go, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But that hope is very small. You know, they're going to check all of the locations here, including the item behind the torture room here, and of course the vanilla big key location. They can't exclude any locations by key logic or dungeon item logic, unless it's the last item from Vitreous. So that's kind of frustrating. They're pretty much guaranteed to be doing all of the checks here.
Yeah, finding that big key in that compass location. I think it's the compass location. It's
yes.
kind of annoying when you know that you need to full clear the dungeon, basically.
Yeah, so we'll even check the big key chest, which would normally have King of Samaria and vanilla, but that's very roundabout to get to. So we get another cutscene sync, which is very nice.
Okay, wait, if I know my No Major Glitches stuff correctly now, it's about 20 minutes from here until the end of the seed. So let's hold that, okay? At 1:42, let's find out if we actually are finishing the seed at that point. Villagin
pointing out very nicely kind of the commentator strategy that we would talk about, you know, because usually this is the point where you mention, you know, this is where a good runner would be. A lot of people in the NMG community use that torch room as kind of their benchmark for how much time they have left in the race. So that's a very interesting NMG knowledge. I appreciate you sharing that.
Gotta bring out some interesting anecdotes while we're, you know, sitting there waiting for a 20-second cutscene or whatever.
Pretty much
we did find one of the two items in this dungeon. It was a triple bomb, so I guess not literally lighting our world on fire, but not figuratively lighting our world on fire.
Oh, the chest turn from Takaze, though. I don't know if anybody else caught that.
That was a glorious move there, and a small key here. So the other item's on Vitreous, and that's it. There's nothing in Mire that they can get.
Fun fact about those.
Time?
Yeah, I gotta think. I mean, at this point, but no, Takaze's going to flute away from that. I'm kind of surprised.
Blacksmiths. Okay.
Yep. So, you know, people have been calling for it in chat for quite a while. Hey, do the blacksmiths, but I kind of agree with this. I mean, this logic has been skewed quite a bit towards overworld, but, you know, if you can clear as much, I mean, you kind of want to hope for that God Mire where you find that King of Samaria, because if you can do that, then Turtle Rock becomes simple. You know, he would be able to go directly there with only having to find the Ice Rod. And that's much easier to find than trying to find both of those items in overworld.
Yeah, I kind of call this aspirational routing. This is where your routing is basically, I don't know that there's like a numerical reason why I should go to this place, but boy, if this place has the thing I need, wouldn't it be great? And you route based on that, and sometimes it works and you're a god and you win by like 20 minutes, and other times it does not work so well, and unfortunately in this case didn't quite pay off. But I mean, definitely compared to doing, you know, the blacksmith chain, which is pretty slow, I certainly can't blame the runners for saying, hey, I have a crystal dungeon with a possible chance of, you know, finding the cane there and being able to finish up pretty quickly. So it didn't work out, but I certainly see the, you know, what they were hoping to do.
And at this point, it's starting to look very likely that, you know, this is going to produce our cane. We could still find the ice rod, but I'm thinking cane is really what's blocking us here. Mr. Meyer, you know, with Vitreous, which at this point I'm almost wondering, does Vitreous have the ice rod? But so we're going to find out what kind of smiths we have today. I always love having arrow smiths, but it's going to be big 20 smiths.
That, somebody ought to call, like, the high roll, like, mint on these people, because they're just printing their own money, basically, and that's not really okay.
Yeah, you know, there's all these signs about the wanted criminal Link, or Zelda, depending on what kind of naming conventions you prefer. But nothing on this clear, obvious counterfeiting. I'm kind of surprised by that.
All right, what does the bat have for us today? 50 rupees. We are finding nothing here. Where's the thing? Please don't make it be an ice palace. That would be really rude.
It's almost like that bat is laundering their money for them as they make the fake money.
So let's think about this right now. So Takaze is, you gotta say he's ahead by a bunch. However, you know, there's an asterisk on that, and the asterisk is he hasn't done Skull, which didn't produce anything, but the longer it's taking him to get the thing he needs, the more likely he is to go and squander that advantage by doing Skull. And then he might also do Desert, and then the question becomes like, well, which of them is going to do the correct, you know, thing first? Where's Takaze going right now? He's going back to 3s. With Skull, it's probably Skull. So, you know, he is ahead. He's got all of Skull, all of Swamp done, while Tadaru still has the entirety of that to do, and he's going to check the left side because it's there. How long until any advantage that Takaze had gets kind of wiped away by the fact that these two items are being so stupid?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, the choice between Desert and Skull Woods. Skull Woods will yield one more item than Desert will, you know, from the actual dungeon itself with the green pendants. So, and we know that there's nothing on the pedestal. I think it was Takaze who checked, right?
I think it was Tadaru, but somebody with a name that starts with Ta definitely checked it.
Very good chance of that, definitely. But so, I mean, you know, we know that, at least in the commentator couch, that there's absolutely nothing that we're going to get from, you know, getting these pendants, unless the green pendant at Sahasrahla has something of value. And that could be a big difference here. Nobody has opted to check out Lambolas today, and that could end up being our gateway.
All right, so Takaze heading straight for Mothula first. He will go ahead and wipe out the evil butterfly. Tadaru is doing the back of the dungeon first. It might see him, instead of taking the trip back up the stairs, since he skipped the left side, he'll take the big key, just finish the dungeon, and come back in afterwards to do both the big chest and the left side. Of course, all of that is going to turn out to be totally unnecessary and pointless, but of course, he is not psychic and does not know that.
Yep, we have the blessing of being in the audience and the commentator couch, knowing all the things that these runners have seen. But we do get to see another really fast butter fight for Mothula, which is always fun to see. Relatively easy compared to, you know, all the other seeds you've seen in this tournament that were swordless for this. You know, various other items. Takaze already done with the fight.
Yeah, and Mothula was a little kind to both runners, opting not to just hug the top left corner like an idiot, so that was nice of him. So here's Tadaru's Argus. Tadargus? Yeah. He's just pulling the pups away with a hook shot and slashing with the gold sword, just like Takaze did. Nice and simple. Neither of them opting for the really fancy zero cycle complicated strat. Takaze is also going to check the pedestal now, find out that the pendant he just got is just a rock that is not useful, and then probably will go back into Skull and check for that other item.
I feel like Tadargus is the high scourge of the seas. But Tadaru has finished his Argus fight, so he has some choices to make as well. I mean, neither of our runners have considered Ice Palace at this point, or at least not openly. We haven't had any reason to think that they have. That would be a potential great play here. I mean, it's not something that I think anybody wants to do, but nobody's done it.
Well, he's got the flute out, and here we go. It's number 3. He's doing blacksmiths as well. Alright,
yep.
Takaze's got both of his items from Skull, so it really is down to Desert and Ice for him. They've already both, of course, cleared everything in Mire that they can. They've full cleared every other dungeon that they have. Desert, they just haven't finished, but they've gotten all the items. And Takaze says, okay, fine, I'll finish it, because that's pretty quick, and I'll get a green pendant. Definitely seems a little more palatable than doing Ice, but this is only one item, so we'll see.
I'm trying to think, I mean, if you get the cane from Sahasrahla, what could that open that would be worth? I don't know, I mean, maybe Vitreous. So, I mean, you could potentially still get better routing out of this, going here for this pendant first.
I think the item you're hoping for is the cane, period, end of story. And then once you get it, you just go finish Mire, Vitreous as an item, and you go straight into Turtle Rock and you don't look back. If Ice Rod's in Ice Palace, you've got to assume that your opponent is screwed too, because they're doing the same thing. Because of how, slow the seed was to give you the thing, the thing in this case being the cane, you've got to feel like your opponent also got wrecked by that, and therefore, like, they're going to be in a similar form of mindset. Like, I mean, on the one hand, there's the fear, right? Like, the fear, what if my opponent didn't get wrecked by this? But then there's the realism, like, no, that happened. Like, if that didn't happen, I'm screwed anyway.
Another thing possibly on our runner's minds is Pyramid Fairy. We could end up doing that on the way to Turtle Rock. So, this is this has got to be a really stressful point in the race for both of our runners. They know that it's been pretty linear, and if one person did something even a little bit different, they could end up being 20 minutes behind at this point, because one find, say, Lammolis. If Lammolis led to Kane, and if they find that out, they might feel like they're very behind at this point.
Alright, pretty good dispatch of Landmolas. Unfortunately, we've already got both items from this dungeon, so it's just a compass. But there's that green pendant, which Takaze will be heading directly to Sahasrahla to turn in. And then it's just Ice. So again, Takaze, like right now, there's not much of a clear lead per se, except that Takaze has done a bunch of things that Tadaru hasn't, so he doesn't have more progression, but there's a very good chance for Tadaru to get trapped in some of these things that Takaze has already taken care of.
Well, it's time to find out what the jewelry we give to the cowboy will give us. This green pendant is just one item, and as we've found out in a lot of seeds recently in this tournament, there's not really usually a lot here, based on more recent logic, but we're going to find out in just a moment.
It's Kin. Nope, just kidding.
I would have been so happy if that was, though, because, I mean, that would have been the most contrived way to get it. I mean, like, everything we could have done in the world, almost. So Ice Palace, also very likely location at this point.
Tadaru having some enjoyable times with this shuffle. He accidentally dug, and then was trying to switch items while the digging animation was still happening, and he kept pause buffering too quickly. Poor Tadaru is probably a little bit flustered right now, after all the stuff the seed has been putting them through, to be 2 items away from go mode, when it really felt like the seed was really picking up, and then it was just like, nah, just kidding.
I didn't think that was a shovel. I thought that was his alternate flute. He was playing the song of his people.
Sounds an awful lot like digging a hole with a shovel.
Potato, potato, shovel, flute. Although it is always nice to get something like book spam. I haven't seen any of that in this race, but sometimes people do get pretty creative with their timing on that. But we are in Ice Palace now for Takaze, so we're going to find out pretty quickly here whether or not early Ice Palace is going to yield anything. If not, then we're going to be spending a lot of time in here.
Well, it's already a lot of time spent in here just to get to the next area. Now, actually, I didn't even notice this. Tadaru actually pieced out of Swamp when... Oh... Oh, right. Yeah, you gotta do this. He pieced out a swamp after beating the boss without doing left side, and unfortunately, left side has items, and double, unfortunately, they're not the thing he needs, so he's going to just have to waste another whole bunch of time to open this up, get the items that are garbage, and then resume his path. So right now is given Takaze just a really, really good head start on this cane search. Well, I mean, the cane search has been ongoing, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was kind of evening out a little bit, even though Takaze had more, overall checks, taken care of. Tadaru, if he had gone into ice instead of doing this, would have had a significant chance to catch up. So I'm kind of curious as to whether or not, maybe some Ice Palace routing could influence, how big of a separation there is between these runners. We're seeing a nice spin slash technique to line up his hammer jump, but Takaze actually falls on the first hammer jump. It's actually a lot more difficult to use different sprites to do this bomb jump.
Yeah, as it turns out, I believe this one, the shadow is identical to other sprites, so if you use the shadow of the sprite to line it up, then you're going to be able to be pretty consistent. I think that is what Takaze does now, so he's actually changed between a couple different methods of doing it, but that looked pretty good on the second try, so he's able to get through, and we'll see what's in this next area of ice. Happily, he got that small key early on, so he'll be thankful to be able to just go directly to the right and start checking chests here immediately.
Yeah, definitely some wise routing. So, I mean, any chance that Tadaru had to maybe catch up a little bit of time in ice is probably unlikely unless Tadaru goes full left and it happens to be left. It's possible, but a little unlikely. We do have a couple of chests here that we can check, though. Vanilla Big Key chest, and then, of course, the one that you can get from the Switch here.
There is one last thing that could still trip up Takaze and save Tadaru after he finishes this left side check, and that is Catfish. And nice vanilla Big Key. And you just have to hope that's not a thing, because God, that would just be so bad. Like Takaze, with absolutely no disrespect to Tadaru, who's playing quite well, Takaze has been able to work out a lead for himself where not only, has he been able to kind of get to this stage of the game sooner, but also has checked dang near everything. And Tadaru's just kind of following behind. But, that's how Rando crumbles sometimes. So, maybe in the end, even though Takaze got to this part first, Tadaru's just going to go to Catfish, and that just turns out to have the thing. Would be tragic for Takaze, but, I mean, again, that's Rando.
Yeah, all in all, up until a couple of double dips difference between these runners, pretty much identical routing for most of the seeds. So it'd be very interesting to see that be the difference.
Well, we are through 2 of the non-dungeon items in ice. There's 1 left. Takaze is going to go ahead and check the ice tea chest for it. Everyone's least favorite chest. Tadaru is fluting. Where to? Ice Palace.
So this is actually, as far as we can see, a bad play. However, it could end up resulting in the item needed, but as far as having an opportunity to gain some time back, not checking Catfish now probably would be costly. So either way, Tadaru will be behind, unless, God Vision gets him the exact right chest and he skips everything else, which he's not going to do.
Right, this is in the realm of plays that are like, it would be really nice if you were psychic, because then you would just be able to make exactly the correct play and go to the thing that your opponent's not doing and hope that that's the correct item. But unfortunately, he's not psychic. He hasn't quite mastered that power as far as we can tell. So he is going to have to follow Takaze through Ice Palace. And as it turns out, there is nothing here except one more item on the boss, which we'll find out what that is in just a little bit what Takaze needs there.
So, I mean, I might be wrong about this, but because Takaze's checked pretty much everything in the world, it's got to be a 50-50 chance of being Cane or Catfish having Cane, right?
I want to say that you're correct, because Cane has to be available now. Ice Rod could theoretically wait, thanks to being able to get Cane. You can go into TR and get Ice Rod later, but Cane needs to be out here somewhere. It's either on Cold Stare or it's on Catfish.
Oh, I think it could be Mushroom too.
Okay, fine. Yes. It could be a fetch quest. That's true. God, haven't our runners suffered enough yet?
Looks like Takaze is going to take out some of his fiery rage out against Cold Stare here, making great use of the Fire Rod and really having very little difficulty with this fight.
There it is. Collect that useless pendant and go ahead and get your magic refill and get out of there.
All right, so stay with me here. We're going to go all the way to Mimic Cave to find that mushroom. And that's going to lead to the Ice Rod.
Ugh. Please, no.
And an hour later from now, we'll finally finish.
Oh, man. So, all right, a little bit of trouble for Tadaru on that Ice Palace bomb jump, but he does manage to pull it off. Takaze, meanwhile, says, I got the cane, I'm going straight to Mire, as one would expect. This is really kind of the most reasonable play. You got a dungeon you can finish. It's your 6th crystal out of 7. Go do it. That'll also open up Pyramid Fairy if you really, aren't confident enough to just go straight to Turtle Rock. He does have enough of a lead where he could do that, but as a practical matter, I'm guessing he doesn't feel that ahead. And in truth, he's really not going to be that ahead, thanks to the fact that Tadaru managed to skip out on that Desert Palace play.
Interestingly enough, I think he picked up the rock from the Mire portal from the south. And if that was for the spooky action glitch, which he could take advantage of since we're going right to the boss, that would set the altitude value on that one sprite slot from the bird. And we could use that to try and do that in the basement. I'm kind of curious to see if Takaze is going to do that here. So we're going to find that out in just a couple of short screens here.
I know that's something that, he's kind of like aware of and he's looked at. I'm not sure that we're going to see him go for it, but we'll find out very shortly here. Tadaru is still working on ice. I actually said it's not going to be that huge of a lead, but actually I forgot that he has to finish the entirety of ice, which includes that iced E chest. And because he did perform the Ice Palace bomb jump, unless he does a bomb jump in this room, it's going to be a little slow to get to that iced E chest. But he is doing this bomb jump.
Oh, and we also saw Takaze do a dash before his Samaria block. He is going to do spooky action here. I don't know if he got the setup right, though. He might not have had the dash particles on screen at the same time. So we're going to see in just a moment if he pulls that off. I think he's going to try and void out the... Actually, I'm kind of confused. Oh, he had his switch hit elsewhere. Yep, so it looks like he got it. It's just kind of late. No. That's really weird.
Yeah, that entire glitch is very complicated, and it looks like he had some parts of it. Didn't quite have all the parts of it. Definitely was going for it. He whipped out that fire rod, but it didn't quite work out. That's all right. It's a really small time loss for him at this point, and he has half magic, so not even a significant magic loss. Yeah,
best case scenario, it only saves you 10 seconds, but it is really cool and it's brand new speed tech. Thanks and shout outs to Raspberry Floof from the Randomizer community here. Who had the same sort of thing happen in a Cold Stare fight, and because of that, we found out that's the real reason that we were having issues with the fire rod. So that's a Randomizer discovery. Very happy to see that coming from the NMG side.
And great fight by Takaze, making use of the WQ strats to get in there with those spins and take out those eyeballs using the gold sword. Of course, very, very easy using the gold sword. Although, I guess with spins, it's the same damage as tempered spins. But whatever, anyway, he's cool. Got number 6 crystal there. And now, where does he go?
Well, so, we know we have a Pyramid Fairy. We were talking a little bit before about whether or not that's the kind of play you'd make. I don't know. Having explored so much already, personally, I would definitely do it just because of how, fearful I'd be of doing a double dip. But, every runner is going to look at this differently. So, I definitely understand where you're coming from on that one. It seems like he's going to it, though.
Yeah, it definitely seems like he is choosing to do it. Probably feels that Basid has been so trolly, and he's checked literally all locations but 3 outside of Turtle Rock. He has to check the 2 Pyramid Fairy locations, and he has to check the Catfish. And so it probably seems pretty reasonable to think, you know what, I'm just going to do these. Get them out of the way. It's such a small time investment relative to the cost of going into Turtle Rock and it's not actually there.
It's kind of hilarious here to me that Takaze is going to complete every single dungeon, full clearing pretty much everything, with the exception of the one or two that we could exclude by key logic and dungeon item logic. But despite that, he is ahead of Tadaru, who has not completed Desert for the Lammolis, or a couple of other things. So it's kind of shows just how much execution Takaze has pulling in from his NMG experience.
Yeah, he's done a really good job of that in this scene, just demonstrating his ability to deal with the low health earlier on and just get through what the seed has thrown at him. Tadaru, for his part, has certainly been no slouch. Here's those Pyramid Fairy checks. There's a cape, but fortunately we know the cape is not useful as well, you know what, Takaze might not know. I don't know that he checked Bumper Cave yet. Like, if he ever got around to there.
Well, we didn't see any kind of major emotional reaction, and that's the nice thing about A Link to the Past is you can kind of emote a bit with Link's movement. No rage slashes, no pulls on the wall, so I get the feeling he does know, or at least isn't too worried about the Bumper Cave. Going here to Catfish definitely speaks to checking everything he can check, but we may end up seeing that check. I mean, I don't recall personally if he saw the Bumper Cave.
I want to say that it was a piece of heart that was on there. I know Tadaru checked it, I just don't remember seeing Takaze, but he may have done. But in the meantime, we're going to get the Catfish check. Tadaru just wrapping up Meyer, doing the same play that Takaze just did. Pretty, you know, identical loadouts, pretty identical heart counts for both of them, despite that, you know, the piece of heart difference earlier on. Each of them skipped one heart container. They're just basically on the same, you know, on the same footing here. And there's a bomb upgrade from the Catfish, which Takaze says, I don't want your stupid bomb upgrade. I'm leaving. I'm going to Turtle Rock.
I think there's only one other bomb bag upgrade besides that one in the entire game. I mean, we're so close to max equipment everywhere. We're only missing one of the medallions, the mushroom. I can't think of much else beyond the mirror shield. We do know that we've already found the other two, but we haven't seen the third. So that's interesting as well, because that, logically speaking, blocks off Laser Bridge. And, you know, Tadaru might actually be wondering in the back of his mind, you know, where is I supposed to find that shield, if that's something that he considers.
I think it's actually fine. I believe invulnerability items count towards the Laser Bridge requirements. So
oh, that's true. You're right.
Burna, especially with half magic, Takaze can just Burna the entire bridge and be totally fine.
That's a good point. Although personally, I would prefer to use the cape, even though it uses more magic, it's less lag. That's part of the reason we use Bloomerang, right?
We use Bloomerang?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In Ganon's Tower. Save those lag frames.
Gosh, this dead rock though. Get out of the freaking way, dude.
I found that one thing you can do to potentially get them out of your way a little better is if instead of slashing you use a hook shot, you can actually hit them multiple times. Although if you're really good, if you're a marksman, you can use powder to change them into, I don't even remember the name of the enemy, but they're those little bouncy ones.
Oh yeah, the little, like the potato sacks.
Yeah. Nevertheless, though, Takaze does manage to make his way into Turtle Rock, so it's about to be crunch time here, folks. There's really not much else that it could be, so we're going to find out very quickly whether or not Tadaru has any chance of catching up short of some deaths or serious misplays from Takaze.
Yeah, I mean, Tadaru can do himself a huge favor right here by going directly to Turtle Rock, and that will negate a huge portion of that time that Takaze invested doing other stuff. But we'll see. There's a lot of tempting other stuff. He is fluting, so not going to see the desert play from him, and he is going straight to one. This is a really great play for him. This is exactly what he needs to do, is just get immediately to Turtle Rock. Whatever is going to have the Ice Rod, it's either going to be just in Turtle Rock, or it's going to be, you know, dropped from some item, like some fetch quest. I mean, really, it's only the mushroom, right?
Yeah, as best as I can tell. So this is great news for Tadaru. This kind of gap just shrunk a lot. Whether or not he realizes that is, you know, down to Psychic, which we don't believe he is. But it seems to be an almost clairvoyant play to head up here. He's going to feel really happy about this in the post race, I have to imagine, because this is going to make this race a lot closer.
Yeah, meanwhile, Takaze is already in Turtle Rock working on the right side, and he's heading his way back into the center. So he's got 2 keys. I didn't see whether he got the big key or not, but gonna see whether or not that ice rod shows up. I mean, that's really it. That's the question.
This is my favorite place for it.
What, the chain chomper?
Oh yeah, very frustrating place. Very likely to take damage here. They love to interrupt your blocks. And actually, we're down to 3 hearts. Well, a mirror shield's not bad either.
Well, there's your laser bridge help there. And he does have powder happily, so he is able to take advantage of those fairies there. Anti-fairies there, that is. There's plenty in Turtle Rock, so it's a great item to have in here.
Yeah, I mean, if there's ever a place where it becomes more apparent where you need it, I mean, growing up, I never really realized you could powder the anti-fairies, but I wish I had known, because the game would have been a lot easier. But this dungeon and Ganon's Tower are probably the best uses of it outside of maybe Misery Mire.
Yeah, pretty much all the later dungeons in the game are the ones where, like, you know what? Having powder is great. Any day of the week. Now, Takaze is going to really want to check this vanilla big key chest because I believe he still needs the big key. Just kidding. There was an item there. I don't know what happened. I had some problems on my end. Don't worry about it.
No worries. I just had a weird thing I just saw on Tadaru's screen, though. Somehow his fire rod shot missed that torch. I don't think he was misaligned, though. So that was weird, but I could have mistaken that. But from the looks of things, though, with, big key was on the right side. Okay. With that being found, really not much spread between these runners. It's, what, about a third of the dungeon, maybe? Yeah,
which is actually a significant amount of time. Of course, Turtle Rock is a long dungeon. And, of course, they're both going to have to do all these checks. So, really, the only thing that could save Tadaru right now is incredibly good execution. I mean, it would have to be incredibly good, while Takaze will need to make some mistakes. Because otherwise, they've got Gold Sword, they've got Silvers, they're all going to have to check the same things in the same order until they find the Ice Rod. There's really not much that's going to result in, like, a routing difference, except maybe Ganon's Tower routing.
I do really like what I see from Takaze here. Oh, wow, very close on the blue potion for Tadaru there, just barely saving that chain chomp room. But I like that Takaze opted to check the big chest before coming into Mimic Cave. Right now, though, Tadaru's having a lot of trouble with these chain chomps.
Yeah, they are being as trolly as they can possibly be, just eating up all of his blocks. He does pick up his mirror shield now and heads downstairs, and there's the Ice Rod in Mimic Cave. Couple slashes from Takaze to express an emotion of some sort, as at 1 hour 51 minutes and about 30 seconds, he is in go mode in the middle of his 7th out of 7 crystal dungeons after having finished all 3 pendant dungeons. What a video.
Well then. Yeah, that's one of the latest go modes I've ever seen. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. It's up there with, like, the oh, you made it to Ganon's Tower, but you are lacking, like, one, like, Cane of Samaria or something, and it's on the left side so that you can go to the right side. This is pretty bad too.
It's almost as bad as when, like, it's bootsless, and then, you find it on the torch key, that sort of thing. Like, that's the only way I can imagine this being much worse.
Or if it were key sanity, I guess. That'd be worse.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about that, right?
I miss key sanity. Anyway, Takaze working on the dark room in TR. Of course, having the lamp, they've had the lamp for ages and ages, thanks to the Aghanim requirement. He does use the hook shot to bypass some of the damage here, and of course he's got powder, so he'll be able to heal himself up. But he is lacking a key, so he wants to make sure he's on good health for going into Laser Bridge. Even with the mirror shield, you don't want to be risky here. You want to be as safe as you possibly can.
It's actually kind of risky to dash through that, though. That's probably some MG reflexes.
Yeah, I don't think he remembers that the mirror shield, he can just walk forward. Just having one of those moments where, I guess, if it's been long enough, like, you never get the mirror shield in a randomizer. So if it's been long enough, you just forget little things like that that are just weird. Like, they seem like such obvious things, but, sometimes they're not. Oh, good gosh. Okay. Oh, Lord. Oh, Takaze. Just walk, dude. Just walk.
Well, At the same time as he's giving us a heart attack, Tadaru has entered Go mode approximately 2 minutes after Takaze. So, I mean, that kind of spread's actually closer than I expected.
Yeah, and Tadaru really benefiting from, as mentioned, just not needing to finish off Desert, being a little bit quicker to go to Ice, and then a little bit, quick to also go directly to Turtle Rock. So great job by him to skip some of those extra overworld checks, but also great job by Takaze. He was able to squeeze those in. Like, this gamble for Tadaru could easily have totally backfired, and it turned out, oh no, Ice Rod was in Pyramid Fairy. Takaze was able to check that and hedge his bets to that, and still have a time advantage. So great job by him to be able to do that. And here goes Trinex. This fight is very, very straightforward with the gear that they have right now, so he should have no problems whatsoever.
Ooh, and a 1 cycle, which is pretty standard for Gold Sword, but still, it's always nice to see a fast fight. This is definitely a good example of what you were saying earlier, which was that, it takes some kind of massive errors in execution or, some kind of really big routing failure in Gan's Tower to make up this difference, because Gold Sword, Silver Arrows, Blue Mail, our runners are pretty comfy at this point, and so it would take a lot to cause that difference in time.
Takaze shooting a few extra fire rod shots there, costing him a couple frames. He's gonna have to wait for his magic bar to fill up. But otherwise, great job by him. He is done with his 7 crystals. He is on his way to Ganon's Tower, which is gonna be a really short trip. So if you want to guess that stupid, big key location, you better get your guesses in real quick, because that's like immediately. Yeah, there's 22 chests, blah, blah, blah. Type a number from 1 to 22, whichever one you want our runners to be trolled by, and there you go.
Well, in that case, then, Vooligan, do you have a preference yourself?
I'm up for a little more gameplay. Let's make him sweat a bit. Usually I don't ask for this, but let's go with 22.
Oh, baby. Tile room all the way. Unless somebody's a little bit more ambitious and wants to make that gamble 2 hours into the seed. I don't suspect that, but that would be very interesting. So I always I'm a fan of Bob. I'm sure Dr. Bob Tastic out there, fellow commentator, would probably really love me for that one, but 14 would be my guess.
All right, we'll see how that goes. Takaze going to start with the right side. When you're this deep into a seed, you've got to go through like multiple kinds of moments. As it's not there in the hope room, as they call it, so he's going to have to move on. But at one point he must have felt like, oh, you know what? I feel pretty good about my seed right now. I feel like I have a good chance of being ahead before the cane hunt started. Then around the time the cane hunt was like deep in its, kind of in its glory, he must have thought like, oh god, I'm so ruined, like I'm screwed. My opponent probably went to Cold Stare immediately. It's all over for me. But now that it's getting to nearly 2 hours and you haven't seen a dot done from your opponent, now you're probably starting to think, I wonder if he got screwed just as much as I did. And so, maybe you start feeling good again at this point. Like, actually, I could have a chance.
Yeah, and certainly starting to feel that way as we round out the last of our inventory. Takaze there picking up Red Mail and Ether. So we're going to see that from both of our runners pretty quickly here. Kind of surprised, though, that we got both of those, missing items. We still have the Mushroom, of course, and bottles, but we're almost done with our inventory. That was 7 chests, though. Chest 8 here in the Fire Bar room is going to be just 10 arrows.
All right, so it's going to have to head deeper down to Randomizer room. Tadaru is booking it over to Ganon's Tower. He has got to pull out some really, really good stuff in order to catch up to Takaze here. I'm really not sure what he could do, because you couldn't go full right side because of not having a small key there. In fact, I believe Takaze's normal routing, he would have gone right if he had the opportunity, but he didn't, so he continued to the left. Tadaru can make up some time by going left immediately, which is not really the standard play these days, but we'll see. Or go left and do Dark Magician or something like that, and hope that it's not in Randomizer room. Those are kind of the only things that can really save Tadaru right now.
Yeah, 9 chests in. We still haven't found that big key. We have a Randomizer room right ahead, so there's definitely some opportunity here. I think we're probably going to find a bottle pretty soon as well. Go figure.
All right, perfect.
Hey.
Well, we're both still on 14 hearts here as Takaze picks up a bunch of garbage here and is going to continue on his way to the Ice Armos. Again, really, the only thing that could save Tadaru right now because we know it's not a randomizer room. He would need to go into the Stealthos room, get some keys, mirror out, and go full right and have the key be there. But after you go to that initial right room, it seems unlikely he's going to do that. We'll see. Obviously, he has no way to know that's the required strat, and he does appear to be killing things, so I'm going to guess he's not doing that.
Well, here comes chest 14. It's going to be Bob's chest. We unfortunately had to murder Bob and his, associate, the actual anti-fairy. 14's a dud.
Alas, so 15, 16, and 17, what will those be?
First up, though, we have the coveted show, Armos on Ice. Get your tickets now, folks.
Dude, they're going fast. This is the hottest show in town.
Actually, it's already gone.
Rip. 15, bottle. 16, compass. 17, big key. Takaze will head up the tower, and that is going to give him a very, very large head start going up the rest of the tower.
I'm actually really disappointed that it wasn't, chest 22, because, Takaze would be really close to full completion. Like, we'd probably have maybe even 200 items checked at that point.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what he's even been able to skip. Very, very few chests in the game have been skippable. What a scene, dude.
It's also funny that he gets that big key right around the 2-hour mark. So we're going to have a pretty close sense of what the real spread is in just a moment. Although, with Ice Armos and Silver Arrows, probably a little closer than I thought we were. It was about 2 minutes before.
Yeah, we'll see as Tadaru gets his way through here. And Takaze, meanwhile, just getting a little bit kind of poked and prodded by those spike traps and by those Igors. But he is able to pass his way through. And now we're going to see. You're going to go for some safety? Nah, he's totally fine with powder, with 14 hard containers, with the silvers, with the gold sword, with the red mail. He doesn't need anything.
I always love, though, when someone takes a safe strat through Ganon Ball Z and then doesn't take the safety room. I mean, obviously, there's good reason for it, but it always looks funny. All right, well, we're about to get that big key for Tadaru, and actually he may have made a little bit of time back up, possibly about 15, 20 seconds compared to when we were entering the tower. Almost forgetting to check this chest before bombing the hole, thankfully remembered. And looks like Takaze is really blazing through this gauntlet right now, already at the Lamoas 2 fight.
Yeah, that gauntlet went very well for him, making good use of the Fire Rod thanks to his half magic, being able to pretty much dispatch everything pretty quickly with the exception of a couple Zazuks giving him some trouble. The red Armos Knight making an appearance there for Tadaru, but not a very lengthy one, and he just called it a cameo. And there is his big key at 2:01:51. So yeah, just about those 2 minutes behind. But unfortunately for him, 2 minutes is a very, very significant amount of time right now.
Yeah, it's an eon.
Yeah, it really is. With all the stuff that Takaze and Tadaru both have at their disposal, neither of them really could have hoped for the other to miss really anything. All the swords were super available, the mails were available, the shields were available. So yeah, they're going to be fully kitted out, and they're going to just have to hope that they're already ahead at this point.
Well, with such a close spread between these racers and such an exciting race to watch, we got a little bit of downtime while they're going through some of these puzzles and kill rooms. I want to thank these runners for putting on this race for us. We're going to see an exciting finish either way. If you guys really like the show, and I'm sure I certainly have here on the commentator couch, you should give these runners a follow. They're definitely going to be involved in the randomizer community for days, months, years to come. As I'm sure you all know, this has been growing. So we're going to see in a little bit here, the Ganon fights from both of them, and hopefully get an interview as well.
Yep. It's good to watch the gauntlet coming up for Tadaru. He's going to go with some silver arrows here, which is another cool method of kind of dealing with the gauntlet. Takaze bombing his way into the end here. He will go for powdering these guys, but will not waste any time checking any of these chests, as he's got so much. I think the only thing they could find there would be like the mushroom just for the memes.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much else. We found all the bottles. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much all we could find besides maybe some 20s or, some random bombs or arrows.
he misses the hook shot clip on that block, and that probably feels really bad because, again, like, he has no idea he's 2 minutes ahead, so he just feels like, oh my god, I can't afford any of this crap. It's 2 hours and 4 minutes in. I need to be done like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I can't imagine when we get the chance to talk to Takaze that he's going to be surprised about how close this is right now. Maybe not realizing how much of a difference there was earlier, though.
Yeah, the seed took some turns, that is for sure.
Unfortunately for Tadaru, having a little bit of difficulty with the silver arrow timing, and Takaze is currently wrapping up the Aghanim 2 fight with some pretty unfortunate blue ball attacks. Had an opportunity for a double there.
Geometry is the worst, and Aghanim geometry is extra the worst. I don't have any idea how this stuff works. He does manage a double on that one with the spin. That was pretty nice, actually. We'll see if he... oh, no. More blue balls. Oh, but he gets the one, and there goes Aghanim.
That was a really good reaction. That's a hard angle to hit from. One thing that's always messed with me, though, is the crown placement on Aghanim's head. I've always thought that was his face.
It is. You will never, ever convince me that it's not.
I'm glad we agree on something here when it comes to Aghanim. That's an important thing that, you know, says a lot about your character. I personally am very happy to hear you say that.
All right, so we're heading into the Gandalf fight. We've got that gold sword. We've got those silver arrows. That will make this incredibly straightforward. The first 2 phases each take 6 slashes of the gold sword. And Takaze will even throw in the little spin there for good measure. I don't know why these gold spins don't do double damage, so he actually just wasted a cycle there. Not really sure what he's thinking, but it kind of doesn't matter for him at this point. He's ahead by enough. That should be fine. Gold spins are the same damage as slashes. He is now done with the second phase as well, so he just needs to sit tight and wait for phase 3 to begin, and now 4 more slashes, and he'll be nearly done.
I have to suspect it's a holdover from NMG strats, because, I mean, you would only do those sword spins if you had tempered. And even though it doesn't make a difference, he did get good RNG for that, second cycle, so that actually worked out pretty well.
It's true, yeah. These teleports, though, oh my gosh. Stop. Just stop.
Now, for those who are uninitiated into Randomizer, most boss RNG will be pretty consistent between both runners. So, like Aghanim, Ganon warps, those things are always going to be the same the first time you fight. The second time that you fight, if you fall or die, is going to be different. So he could get an infinite number of warps.
All right, Takaze getting a little bit kind of greedy, almost took a fall. A little bit closer than he would like, at least, but he now does stick the pig twice, gets another stun there, and is able to get a third one in. Just needs to relight the torches one time, and he will be wrapping up shortly. And there it is.
Well, with that sword up, gold sword, 1,611 rupees. Takaze's finishing up his seed. He's going to get an official Speed Racing TV time in just a moment of 2 hours, 7 minutes, and 3 seconds. GG's in chat.
GG to Takaze. Really well played for how garbage that seed could be at times, being able to make it through everything, literally everything, pretty quickly. And be able to get to the end before his opponent by about, this looks like about 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half. Very well done by him. Just from start to finish, pretty solid execution, not really having major issues. And yeah, just like all of his routing worked out until, the one place where it's just, there wasn't really a routing question. It was just, well, are you going to guess the correct thing first?
All right, looks like Takaze will be joining us for an interview in just a moment. Did get a confirmation on that. We're also going to have the Ganon fight here. We're seeing Kane of Burnus strats, which is kind of interesting. He doesn't have the cape, so he doesn't have the same sort of safety, to be able to do it with that. But it does cause a lot of lag, so I think Tadaru may have seen the dot done. Probably not worried about that at the moment.
Yeah, or, just kind of almost whatever. It's like, I just got to do what I got to do to make Ganon quick and painless. And if you're, unconfident that you might take some damage if you, get knocked off or something if you don't use it, then, do what you got to do. So just chilling here, watching this fight. We will bring Takaze in right after this fight wraps up. We'll have Tadaru join us as well if he wants, and not if he doesn't want. Either way is totally fine. But this fight going pretty smoothly again, you know, having the gold, having the silvers. He's going to bust out the lamp and get the torch glitch, which Takaze just didn't even bother to get. Not a super huge deal if you have silvers, but, you know, it's nice. It makes it a little bit faster. Oof.
Yeah, the Gen hitbox for arrows is kind of narrow. Very easy, even though it looks like he headshotted him, to just kind of miss that.
Yeah, in fact, that's actually like his hurt box too. If you try to, oh gosh, the same thing happening again. If you try to like walk through him, you actually can walk through a lot more of his sprite than you might think safely without getting killed. So, you know, useful things to know, although of course you do always want to be careful about hugging the pig.
I do admire his attempt to 360 no-scope the pig, though. All right, and some bomb drops to celebrate his, victory against Ganon here.
The celebratory bomb drops, channeling his inner F. Coughlin, and wrapping up the fight. He will be stepping into the room, and we'll get his time momentarily. Oh, there we go, right in the center of the Triforce.
All right, so I'm going to ask Tadaru if you'd like to join us for an interview. We're also going to pull in Takaze into the commentary channel for a quick interview as well. And we are joined by the victor of the match, Takaze. Congratulations and GG.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, go ahead and spill the beans, man. How do you feel after getting your chain yanked around by a seed like that for the last 2 hours and change?
Why am I playing this again? That was, yeah, I didn't enjoy that. At some point, I just had to find it. I think by the time I got it at got the cane at Cold Stare, I think it was between that and Catfish were the only 2 things I had available.
That is correct. And of course, you did end up checking those as well. So you checked literally every location that was
Actually, I never checked what was on Bumper Cave. So going into TR, I was like, boy, I hope that cape I just picked up wasn't going to be useful.
Oh man, I actually remembered this correctly. He didn't check it.
Oh, the Bumper Cave.
Yep.
Oh boy.
So it's just a piece of heart as it turned out. But
okay.
Yeah, I had noticed that you hadn't checked it. Wow. Okay. So that's very fortunate for you. Wow.
Yeah, well, fortunate is a word.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Tadaru's ready to be pulled in here. Do this interview side by side, yeah?
Sure thing.
Alrighty then, we are joined by Tadaru, our other contestant in this race. Congratulations and GG on finishing up.
Thanks.
GG to you.
So we were just talking. Well, we were just talking about how much completion was in this seed, and Tadaru, you may not have known, obviously being in the race, but Takaze completed quite a lot. Congratulations and GG on finishing up.
I feel like I completed a lot too, though.
Yep.
I think this is just one of those seeds where unless you do the exact thing it wants you to do, you're just going to end up doing a lot.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The only thing Tadaru managed to get by without clearing desert and without clearing pyramid fairy or catfish.
Do the exact thing it wants
but that was it. Otherwise, you guys both did everything. And Tadaru, I'll just ask you the same question that I kind of directed at Takaze. Like, what do you feel as you're going through a seed like this, where, it seems kind of okay, and then you get to the point where it's just like completely yanking your chain? Both did
everything. I was just getting so nervous, like after I made like decision after decision. I just got more and more nervous, and you could probably see just progressively falling apart in that second half. So yeah, it's just my execution fell apart, and I just kept looking at the race channel, seeing that Takaze still hadn't finished. Just added on to it.
It was definitely exciting on our end.
Yeah, no, I mean, I honestly, I was gonna say, like, I don't think there was a time when we, as the commentators, looked at your play and just thought, like, oh man, he looks really nervous. So, like, it, like, you know, I think you did a pretty good job of keeping it up. Although, obviously, as the player, probably feel differently. But yeah, just you know, it really, I can't even say that it came down to any one particular thing. You guys both did practically the same stuff. You ended up only separated by a couple minutes. Takaze was able to benefit a little bit from some more efficient checking. And so I'll actually throw another question to you, Takaze, about that. Because one thing that you did is you did not check Eastern Palace before going to Aghanim. Eastern Palace, of course, ended up having the boots. But because you didn't check it then, you were able to put it off for later and do it in one visit. And I wanted to ask about that decision. What were you thinking at that time?
Well, if I remember right, we still needed both hammer and a glove for Dark World access. And doing Aghanim did have access to the western side of Dark World with the flippers and hookshot. And then I was actually even considering, after coming off of Death Mountain, to not even bother with Sahasrara. But I've gotten burned sometimes in the past, being a little too eager to do Aghanim. So yeah, it would have been really unfortunate if I did Aghanim and both like hammer and glove was in Eastern, but no, I figured the chance of that would be pretty low.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we do get to see the collection rate for Takaze first. 183 out of 216. I mean, whew. It's not the highest I've ever seen, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, it's. I think I've had, oddly enough, I think 183 I've had a few times. Like not 182, not 181, 183. Maybe that's just my number.
It's basically all of the overworld locations, pretty much. Plus whatever you can normally skip by key logic in the dungeons, right?
Yeah, it probably is pretty much what that is, actually.
Something I was actually really worried about, like it kept coming back to me. After doing Thieves Town, I was like, did I miscount my chests? Did I? Like I knew at least I was pretty sure the big chest was locked by itself. But I thought I might have missed one of the keys on the first floor of Thieves Town, and it just every like 5 minutes or so, it just kept coming back to me. Did you check all the chests in there? What if you didn't? So if I checked a few more locations and I didn't end up finding what I needed, I would have been like, oh well, I guess I'm going to Thieves Town. But I guess after a point, like once it got to both of us were in this seed for pretty long, it wasn't so the thought wasn't coming back to me every so often, because I figured he would have been done a lot faster if I happened to miss that chest.
You know, another interesting thing for us from the audience side was how early you got Gold Sword. I mean, both of you about half an hour in had every sword upgrade, and it really kind of eliminated some of the chances for. I mean, I know Takaze that you do play NMG. I don't know if you do Tadaru, but you know, the experience with that doesn't really get to come through as much. But we did get to see the WQ strats on video. I thought that was pretty cool. And then
yeah,
Tadaru, you showed us
so much easier with Gold Sword, man. But yeah, I've been practicing a lot over the past week. I'm sure Vulijin probably mentioned he and I were practice buddies at a particular event last week. Lot of NMG practice, and I do like the seeds that I get to show off that experience a little bit more. And all I really want in a seed is I want to have boots and I want to have tempered. Don't give me anything else. Give me relatively low hearts, and I really like those seats.
One other thing I wanted to ask you guys about, Takaze, I think you tried it, but the Meyer glitch with the fire rod, I think what happened there is I think the dash particles that you're supposed to kick up before that Samaria block, I think those were just a little bit too early before the Samaria block was placed.
Yeah, I was wondering if anybody caught that. I actually thought that I messed up the before even getting into Meyer, where you flew in with the bird, and because I just kind of defaulted to normal stuff, and then as the bird was leaving the screen, I'm like, I don't think I'm standing in the right spot. Let me see if I can fix this. So I was like, well, whatever, I'll go for it. I have plenty of bombs, so it's not really gonna burn me if I mess it up.
The fire rod glitch isn't gonna burn you?
Ha
Oh, I'm 0 for 7 today.
So, Tadaru, I'll throw a question to you, and I don't want this to sound like it's rubbing anything in, but you do drop to 2 and 4, and I just want to ask overall your experience with the tournament and your experience with Randomizer. You plan to kind of wrap things up next week and continue with your week 7 match, and how do you plan to approach that? And overall, what have your thoughts and experiences been with all this?
Well, I mean, the nightly races, I do play the daily races, but it's just pinpoint what I should really improve on. So I had to guess, it's just my guessing, because it just seems like always so much higher than everybody's. Well, going back a bit, I just am now kicking myself because as soon as I got Bombos way early in the seed, I thought I should check Ice Palace if it opens. It was there.
Yeah, boy, it would have been a very different race.
Yeah, that would have sent you all over the place.
There's making that sometimes the right thing to do is trust my gut, the right thing to do is go against it, but I mean, I guess that's Randomizer. As for my week 7 match, continue to keep practicing, just maybe do a little more of that simulator because that can help with the guessing practice, the Z3R sim.
Well, I'm excited to hear that you're taking your next week match seriously. There are a lot of people out there who kind of give up hope on their tournament because the way that statistics all work out. I'm still playing my week 7, even though I'm statistically eliminated myself. And it's really exciting to see how much interest there's been in Randomizer. As I recall, you're relatively new to the scene within the last year or so. Is that right?
Started playing in late January. So, yeah, still relatively inexperienced.
Well, that's really exciting stuff to see from ALTTP fans who have been around a little while. I mean, this community has just been absolutely exploding. So, I mean, I'm really happy to see that, yourself and many others have, taken the call to try and, step up to the competitive stage for this, because this has been, absolutely fantastic for even the directory here on Twitch for A Link to the Past. A lot more people interested in this game than we've seen in years past. So I want to thank you for putting on a show for us today with that. And this has been really exciting to watch.
Oh, you're welcome. And yeah, even though I lost, I still had fun. I had that just kind of hard to explain fun stress that just seeing the race channel, seeing that Takaze hadn't finished, hoping in a weird way.
Dude, I know that exact feeling. That's so much fun. That's why I do like tournaments and stuff too, because it's so much fun to have that. Even though it's stressful, just experience that experience. You can't get it any other way. So, good. That's good times. I love that stuff. Takaze, I'll throw one more question to you. Of course, now you're 3 and 3. There's an infinitesimal chance that a 4 and 3 person is one 4 and 3 person is going to make it through. But for all intents and purposes, this you're finishing up your tournament for fun. How are you going to approach that week 7 match?
Just try to have fun. Especially like it's probably a little easier to do now since like yeah, for all intents and purposes, I'm out. Like I'd probably have a better chance of like winning a lotto ticket than getting into brackets. Because I was kind of beating myself up, especially when I lost the my 2-2 match. Like a lot losses in randomizer can be pretty rough. Like especially when it's something like, oh, you know, if I just went here a little bit faster, it would have been the difference. But now that I know I'm out of the tournament, for all intents and purposes, it's a lot easier to just have fun. And I wasn't really stressed out this match. Like if I lost, I probably would have, you know, been a little upset, but it wouldn't have been too bad.
Well, both of you have had really great attitudes and spirits about it. I got to point this out since we now have the collection rate for Tadaru. There's an exact 1 item difference between the two of you in collection rate, and I'm just like, that's the most amazing thing to me. And although the timer doesn't show correctly for Takaze, it was still like a 2-minute difference. So, I mean, that's just the most exciting thing to see on our end, you know, to have both of you in Ganon's Tower. And that's where all the excitement and drama of Randomizer comes from. A lot of people have been watching the tournaments over the last couple of years. You know, and been getting into it that way. So I hope that there are people out there who are considering, hey, you know, want to pick up this game, want to give it a try, because I promise you, while it is sometimes frustrating, it is very great exercise in, you know, mental gymnastics and trying to figure out how to, you know, route things and, you know, just loving and playing Zelda. That's my favorite part about it. So I think we should probably try and tie a bow on this. Do you guys have any final remarks you'd like to share with your fans? I'll start with you, Tadaru.
Well, not really that much. Just GG Takaze, well played.
And I should extend the same invitation to you, Takaze. Anything you'd like to share with your fans?
Thanks for watching. This seed was a little rude, but we both got through it, and we'll get through next week's.
Well, I definitely want to thank you guys again for putting on this race. And folks out there, you know, definitely want to catch more Randomizer from these guys. You know, give them a follow. And thanks to Vooligen for sharing the mic with me. Greatly appreciate your co-commentary. You're definitely a strong commentator to speak with. So it was a very exciting race. And I even got to make a couple bad puns as well.
Indeed you did. And I even stuck around after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks. It was a pleasure to work with you as well. Thanks to our tracker today, Kippy00, and thanks to Jax Refi for providing the restream. We much appreciate it here on the ALTTP Randomizer channel. Don't forget, if you guys want to watch more Randomizer, because, oh my God, there's always more, make sure to follow all of the Speed Gaming channels. That's twitch.tv/speedgaming and speedgaming2-6, and also twitch.tv/ALTTP Randomizer and twitch.tv/ALTTP Randomizer 2-4. All of those channels will constantly be loaded in Randomizer. More Randomizer than you can handle, really. But it's good times. I look forward to watching more of it. And I look forward to seeing you all again.
Well, with that, I think that's about it for the race today, folks. I've been Uday Monistic, joined by
Vooligen.
And folks, we'll see you next mission.
Have a good night.